show because Maurice Jones-Drew. Is Maurice Jones-Drew at the point where that's not a household name? Anyways, he had some fantastic audio about his time coaching his kids, and one of his kids, a running back, could be possibly coming to Utah. And Utah is always where we start on this program, no matter what is going on in the sports world. We know that this is Ute Nation out here. Utah football dominates the market. And some news broke since the last time I was on these airwaves. A little thing called Isaac Wilson back. I am flabbergasted. Is that too strong of a term? Flabbergasted that Isaac Wilson is returning. He entered the portal. I'm guessing he saw what his options were and felt like the best option was to return to Utah. So that's pretty much what we have for the poll. A little bit surprised I am, because I didn't think he was coming back. I didn't think that would be an option. I felt like once Utah made the moves that they did, bringing in Jason Beck, obviously bringing in the quarterback Dampier, I figured that meant that Isaac Wilson's time in Utah was over. I would love to get somebody from the Utah program to talk to about his return. And the question is for Ute fans, I mean, I really want to ask, who would you rather have? Now, I encouraged everybody that's listening to check out the highlight reel of Dampier, two totally different quarterbacks. But Isaac Wilson has the pedigree. Obviously, his brother, drafted number 2 overall in New York, didn't really work well there. And it hasn't, he hasn't turned into anything since leaving. I believe he's in Denver, back up to Bo Nix. But kind of wonder who would you rather take the first snap week 1 for the Utes? But the question is on the poll, and you can vote at ESPN 700 is the Twitter handle for the station, at ESPN 700. You can vote there, and then I'll retweet it. I am at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. Please give me a follow, and I'll retweet the poll. Question is basically, is there a quarterback controversy in Utah? Dampier or Wilson? Where you at? What do you want? What do you think is going to happen? Again, I'm very, very, very surprised. I use the word flabbergasted. Astonished, if you will. I did not think he was going to return to Utah, but he does. And this was after a conversation with Jason Beck and knowing what the offense is going to be. I'm assuming it's going to be a competition. I don't think he would have returned if he was told directly, there is no way that you're going to start. Dampier is our guy. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they told him that, and he just sees that his future is the brightest with Utah. Maybe Dampier plays a year, and then Wilson starts next year. Again, he's got years of eligibility. So it'll be interesting to watch. That was the big news for me. Every day, as I try to entertain you, I look at Utah Utes news, and that's what I saw. Utah Utes quarterback Isaac Wilson back with the team. And I didn't see it coming. Really didn't. But now the question is on the poll again, at ESPN 700, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. Is there now a competition? I believe that there will be. Now, I think Dampier will be the starter. But if in camp they see things from Isaac Wilson, again, this came after a meeting with Jason Beck. So everything's on the table. Dampier's already transferred over. Isaac Wilson knows all of that. This came after a meeting with Jason Beck and talking about the offense. So, is there going to be competition in 2025 as we go into the season? That is the question for you, and that is the opening segment. And the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you by Alvy Armani. If you are having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, Maybe it's just thinning more than you'd like. Let Alvi Armani help you out. Find them online at alviarmani.com and tell them ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM sent you. I find it to be very intriguing. I'll tell you that. I don't know exactly what's going to go into this. This is something different for Ute fans and something different for me as a sports broadcaster, delivering you news and the things that you need to know. The whole upheaval of the offensive side is right in front of you. And I think that it's something that you all welcome. I've put up various polls. Would you rather win in a shootout or a defensive battle? And the reason why I go back and forth with it as much as I do is that your identity as a Ute fan and the identity of Utah as a football program has been, we are going to be physical and tough. And they all, everybody talks about the three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. Three phases. You see it all the time. Utah has been known for the defense and the special teams, not so much the offense. Now, did Cam Rising have some great years and some years where it bumped up the offensive efficiency? Yes. But it is known as a defensive program. And so you as a Ute fan, when you go watch these games, you identify that as well. I'm sure when you're tailgating, getting ready for the game, playing cornhole, whatever you do to get ready for a Utah football game, you identify as tough and defensive. But over the past couple of years, the offensive side of the ball has killed you. I read some stats. I still have them in front of me. I'm not a big stat guy. I like using them when they're applicable and using them for an argument or to explain something. But essentially, what I gave you is that the Utah Utes passing ranked 129th out of 134 FBS teams with a 49.7 grade from Pro Football Focus. They scored 23.6 per game, ranking 14th in the Big 12. And even though they call it the Big 12, there's 16 teams. They were 14th. Yards per game, they passed for less than 200, ranking 15th out of 16th in the Big 12. Rushed for 130 yards, they were 12th in the Big 12. Red zone scoring percentage, they were 88th in the country. Touchdown rate, they ranked 106th in the country at 50%. So obviously something had to be done on the offensive side. But as I said numerous times, something had to change, and they're changing big time. But I did not think, the news on the Monday, not yesterday, but a week from yesterday, the big news was there were 3 quarterbacks from Utah that entered the transfer portal. And I said, relax, calm down. There's a reason for that. They're bringing in Jason Beck. The offense is going to be totally different than what you've watched. So, of course, 3 quarterbacks are going to enter the portal. What I didn't see is one of them, and probably the biggest name in Isaac Wilson, coming back. So the question is, on Twitter, at ESPN 700, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports, is there now a quarterback controversy? I'm guessing that Wilson would have not came back if they didn't tell him that he would have a shot at starting. Or maybe he just didn't garner any interest when he entered the portal. His numbers were not great. 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a completion percentage of 56.4. That in 2024, that's not going to get it done. It just won't. I mean, it used to be a good percentage, but as football has evolved, again, you look at a guy like Jared Goff, who had more touchdowns thrown than incompletions. The standard for what the completion percentage should be has risen. And 56.4, not great. More picks than touchdowns, not great. On the ground, only 47 yards he accumulated over his 7 starts a total of 8, 9, 10 games. But he's back. He is back. And I guess we'll have to let it play out. Not always the best radio because people want answers. But to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he would have returned going into the portal. And I don't know what the interest was shown towards him. Maybe he didn't get a lot of love or didn't get the kind of offers that he thought he was going to get from other schools. But in my opinion, there's no way he's coming back to Utah unless he was told he has a chance to start. And I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'm excited about Dampier. Don't get me wrong. And excited about Beck coming in and watching how different the offense is going to be. And like I said, if they come even close to what the defensive side of the ball can do, then we're definitely talking about a bowl game, and hopefully we're talking about a Big 12 championship game and a chance to get into the 12-team college playoff. But, James, yes or no, there's no way Isaac Wilson entering the portal comes back to Utah unless he was told that he has a shot to start.
Yeah, I don't think there's no way they made him anything close to a promise that he will be the starter, but they absolutely had to have convinced him that he had a chance to compete for the starting job. Or else I'm not sure why he comes back either, unless he was upset about how things went this year in the program, his own play, how things went, how the season played out, that sort of thing.
Okay. You bring up a good point. Sorry to interrupt, but
you're good.
No. But you bring up a good point. How could he really be upset about the way that it went? Because he got his shot again.
It's true.
He got plenty of starts. He got plenty of time. Now,
earlier than he probably expected.
Unless you're talking about Coach Ludd getting fired.
Yeah, and maybe that was part of it. But the reason I brought that up is to say maybe he went into the portal with it's more of an emotionally driven decision. Hey, I'm upset with how things went. The coach that recruited me, the offensive coordinator that I thought I was going to play for, is no longer here. The season wasn't as good as we thought it would be. I didn't play that great, that sort of thing. Maybe that drove it, but then he went, you know what? It looks like they've moved on to another player as the starter, but you know what? I've thought about it more, and this is still the place for me. Devin Dampier has 2 years of eligibility left, which means that Isaac could still be in the program by the time he's done.
That's what that's what I think is going to happen here. I think that he sees it as he will groom into being the starting quarterback if Dampier leaves. Because Dampier could have a great year and go to the draft, and then he comes in. Or an injury, he comes in. I think he fell in love with the program. He thought it was going to go great. Obviously, things went horrible. 7-game losing streak. Coach Ludd gets fired. I think that he came in loving the situation. It didn't go well. He went to the portal. Maybe he didn't get the offers that he thought he was going to get, and now he's coming back thinking, all right, I'm excited. Because, again, I can't stress enough, this came after a conversation with the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck. So my guess is he talked with him, felt comfortable, felt like he could succeed. And even if it's not him starting this year, which I do think there'll be a competition, he sees it as, in terms of my future, this is the best place to be.
Yeah, he went, you know what? I committed to an offense that was going to be run by Andy Ludwig, but after talking with Jason Beck, I still feel really good about this offense. Now, here's the thing about how willing he might be to sit for 2 years behind – potentially 2 years behind Devin Dampier.
Depending on how he does,
By the time, if Dampier's healthy and the whole thing and plays two years as the primary starting quarterback, Isaac will be that'll be his senior year. Will be all that's left. So who knows how patient Isaac will be, especially in this era of transfer. Of how easy it is to transfer. But I think it's a good sign that he's decided to come back. It's definitely better than the alternative, man. I texted you a link to this just to see if you saw it, and as a way of saying, hey, definitely something we should talk about today on the or tomorrow on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, is this? You were questioning like how good a news
is it a good
this?
thing?
Yeah,
I mean
because I was saying I think it is good news for Utah because when you have young talent, especially when you have young talent who was considering leaving, deciding to come back in the aftermath of a really, according to preseason expectations, a really awful year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's always a good thing to get that young talent back, regardless of, whether or not you believe in Isaac Wilson as the long-term starter.
I did text you that specifically. I also said, well, tomorrow's show is written.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a lot to talk about.
It is.
I think that could also be a poll question. Is it a good thing that he's coming back? I say yes. Like you said, nothing wrong with having talent come back. Nothing wrong with having competition. Obviously I do think Dampier will be the starter based on the fact that his offensive coordinator came over as well. So I think, I think we were talking percentages before the show when we were doing a little show prep. The percentage chance of Dampier being the starting quarterback is probably in the 90, percentile. But having a guy behind him and a guy that, again, met with the offensive coordinator and is excited about the offense and what his role could be, again, he could look at it like, okay, Dampier could come here and ball. He goes to the NFL. Maybe he's a first-round pick, maybe a late first-round pick. Who knows? I don't know what his ceiling is specifically. But having a guy behind him that is going to learn and watch the whole thing. And, again, Coach Witt was so excited. I can't stress this enough. When OC came back to ESPN 700 and he talked to me about the opportunity, I obviously dived in to everything Utah. And I cannot stress enough that my research, my reading of articles, watching clips, hearing quotes from Coach Witt, he was unbelievably excited about Isaac Wilson. He talked about how he knows the whole offense. Now, obviously, it's going to be different, but he was just excited about him as a player in the program, and especially because he knew, and it was talked about. It had to be talked about because Cam had missed the whole previous year. It was talked about the factor of whether or not he was going to be able to step in. And Coach Witt was pumped up about Isaac Wilson. So he obviously sees a ton of potential there. Now, again, I am flabbergasted. I don't use that word loosely, but I was that shocked when James sent me that text message saying that Isaac Wilson was coming back. I thought he was going to be long gone, mainly because of how different the offense is, and that's not what he's groomed himself to be. But he obviously, after having a conversation with the offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, walked out of that feeling like he could succeed in the system that Jason Beck is going to bring. And so, God bless for the future. And again, you talked about it. The transfer portal is crazy. Who knows who's going to go where? They could both be gone next year. And I'll be sitting in front of this microphone talking about 4 new guys. But you went from having nobody in the quarterback room. Now you got 4. And you got 1 that has college experience. I do think, despite the numbers, James, despite the fact that Isaac Wilson had more picks than touchdowns, experience is everything. I can tell you that just relating it to this business. And anybody listening can relate it to whatever they do. Whether you're, I went down to go get a Christmas gift for our Christmas party, whether you're stocking stuff or whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, when you do it over and over again, you're better. So I think the fact that he had the experience, despite the fact that it was not good on the stat line or good in terms of wins and losses, he's been out there. He has started. He has seen what is going on. And again, to me, and I'm going to beat a dead horse here, James, but the fact that it came after a meeting with the offensive coordinator tells me he wants to be a part of what's here. He wants to be a part of what Utah has built. And despite the fact that the offense is going to be drastically different than what Coach Ludd had, he wants to be here. And I think he's going to get a shot to start. I think that Dampier is going to win the job, but I think he's going to be able to watch. He's played. He's got experience. If, Dampier has to miss any time, he can step in and play. And if Dampier leaves for the draft or transfers or whatever, he'll be able to step in. I think it's great news for the University of Utah.
I think so too. And the other thing that we can infer coming out of that conversation that he had with the new offensive coordinator Jason Beck is that Isaac's coming out of that with the trust that even though Beck's guy is coming into the program from New Mexico, that he's going to get a fair shot at the starting job. He's going to be able to compete, and they're going to evaluate him fairly. They're not going to have this bias that, hey, yeah, he looks good, but we've already committed to Devin kind of thing. They're gonna come at it with an open mind and seriously looking at both of them, and whoever else may transfer in or come back that was already in the program. Maybe we have others that remove their name from the portal that could be in that competition as well. Brandon Rose is a guy that comes to mind. He hasn't found a landing spot yet. There's still a chance he could come back to the program. He did start a game, played really well, and for one half of that game anyway against BYU. So there's a chance that there's more familiar faces that are back in this room. There's also a chance that there's other talented guys like we've been hearing Wyshawn Parker, right? Who could be coming, who's considering Utah out of the transfer portal. And if that's the case, you're going to have 3 guys who played college football before. I would think that there's going to be a much more of a competition than we would have thought after Devin Dampier initially committed out of the transfer portal. So there's still a long way to go here, but I'm with you. Great news for Utah that there's not that one of the guys that they saw as their future entered the portal and has decided, you know what, I'm going to give it another shot.
Yeah, for sure. And, you mentioned Wyshawn Parker, who hails from Sacramento, shout out Northern California. And we have actually news on that, too. Michael Vick, I believe he goes by Mike Vick now, but Mike Vick might be coaching Sacramento State, and I got some funny stuff on that between Adam Schefter. I don't know if you saw that whole thing with Doug Gottlieb.
I missed it.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna stay tuned for that.
Yes,
for sure. With the rest of our listeners.
Well, Schefter doesn't often have Twitter beef, but
he beefed with Gottlieb.
Doug Gottlieb, known to be a radio host.
Yes.
He filled in for Dan Pat.
Yeah. He's also now the head coach.
Yes.
Wisconsin Green.
And Schefter called him out. So basically, I'll just do it right now as we close out the segment. Okay. Schefter tweeted out Mike Vick might be coming there. Sacramento State has $5 million in nil money. And Doug Gottlieb, I should pull up the actual article. But basically, Doug Gottlieb says, whoa, Jesus, Schefter, there's no way in the world Sacramento State has $5 million in nil money. And then Schefter tweeted back and said, geez, I'm criminy, or whatever. He quoted the same thing that Doug Gottlieb said. So basically, here we go. I got the article right here. Sacramento State is in discussions to hire former Pro Bowl quarterback Mike Vick as its new head coach. Per sources, Sacramento State plans to move up to FBS and building a new stadium and has over 50 million in NIL. Sacramento State would build an experienced coaching staff around Vick. Doug Gottlieb came back and said, I don't like using the Lord's name in vain, but he said Jesus, Jeesus, Jesus Shefty, edit what agents tell you. 0% chance Sac State has $50 million in nil. Now Shefty comes back and goes, Jesus, Doug, a 7-game losing streak and last place in the Horizon League, less time on social media and more time in the gym. And then he screenshotted the standings for the Horizon League.
Oh man, that's Brett McMurphy style going at it. Insider on Twitter going at it. That's amazing.
I got to be honest, Shefty does not strike me as a person who would do something like that.
He doesn't get petty on Twitter.
No.
He just kind of says, no, I stand by my sources and moves on because he's Adam Schefter. He can do that, right?
Exactly. So he must have been feeling a little frisky because he diverted from even the topic. He went after him on his coaching. Oh, man.
Did.
Anyways,
that's
he
why
dunked on him.
Why I say Brett McMurphy style. Did you see when McMurphy quote tweeted
No.
John Canzano's take on Jaden Daniels
I missed that.
not being a very good quarterback? He's not going to be very good at LSU because he was only okay at ASU, and then he won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
McMurphy, I can't remember offhand what they were quibbling over, but Canzano had his sources that were saying something different than McMurphy, and McMurphy's response to Canzano saying, "Hey, I'm hearing something different," is a screenshot of Canzano saying that Jaden Daniels isn't going to be great at LSU. He won the Heisman Trophy, and now he's balling out in Washington. Anyway,
yeah.
So it McMurphy style.
It reminded you
that.
of it, yeah.
Dunking on people on Twitter. I love it when the insiders who seemingly are above things.
Yes.
Get into
Go
it the
down
way
to that
we
level.
do.
You like that? Yeah.
I like that.
You like when they stoop? You like when they stoop to that level? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think it was a little mean, honestly. Adam Schefter seems like such a nice guy.
See, Gottlieb doesn't really care.
He rubs people the wrong way.
He doesn't care what people think, so he rubs people the wrong way. I think that's another
it's kind
case
of his shtick, huh?
I think that's another case of Gottlieb just like bugging people, even people in the industry.
Yeah. All right. Coming up, bottom of the hour, we're going to speak with Gordy Chiesa. I got to meet him in person. James introduced me. It was a pleasure. I wanted to take a picture with him, but I didn't want to make like a whole fuss thing. You know what I mean? But I got to meet him at the Jazz Suns game on Friday. I want to pick his brain on what he saw in the first half because they were very competitive in that first half. And they show signs, and then you have a game like yesterday where they get completely blown out. So we'll talk a little Jazz basketball. We'll go around the NBA with him. Our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time. Don't forget, vote on the polls. At ESPN 700, I will retweet it on my account, at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. You can text in at any time on the Dish Pros text line, 877-353-0700. And if James is in the mood, he will take your phone calls as well at that same number, 877-353-0700. Check me out. I'm on YouTube. You can see my, however you want to describe my mug, but you can check us out on YouTube. It's just me doing the show. Microphone in front of me, little coffee action, all that good stuff. At ESPN 700 Sports Utah is where you can find YouTube. Just click on live, I believe, once you get to that page. So we will talk some basketball coming up next with our trainer right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Guy Zakariah Holt, 92.1 FM.
5.6 seconds remaining. That's all, and then the celebration will officially begin. The Los Angeles Lakers win the first NBA Cup. They are champions of the inaugural in-season tournament.
That was the final call of the Lakers win in the inaugural NBA Cup last season, courtesy of ESPN. Mike Breen on the call. The 2024 NBA Cup championship is tonight at 6:30 on ABC. It's the Thunder and the Bucks. Welcome on back to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to do FIF, F-I-F, which is fun in the 40s or the 50s, depending on our timing. That's where I go around the wacky world of sports. We got great sound from Maurice Jones-Drew on the Dan Patrick Show, which, of course, you can catch right here on ESPN 700. But that is in 15 minutes. Right now, we have the one, the only, Italiano, fellow Pazan, Gordy Chiesa. He's a professional basketball coach, pro personnel director, NBA insider right here on ESPN 700 Radio in Salt Lake. You can follow him on Twitter at @GChiesa. Oh my. Gordy, got to meet you in person. It was an absolute honor. I wanted to take a picture with you, but I was too shy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Zakariah. Anytime picture, it'll be fun for me too.
Okay.
Certainly.
Next time. It was just, I wanted to play it cool. I was trying to act like I've been there before.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And you'll be with me in person coming this Thursday. Looking forward to that.
That's right. And also, it's for a great cause. I've been there many times over the years. And for the listeners, it's a great way to give back to people in need. So you and I will be on the air yourself, 11 o'clock, myself, 11:30 with you. It's for a great cause.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll definitely get a picture there. Gordy, let's talk about that game on Friday night, because this team, and I talked about this with Spence Checketts, the drive 2-6, and we do crosstalk towards the end of the show. And it's just a perplexing team to watch, Gordy. And you watch that first half, very, very competitive. And then you have a game like last night where they get blown out 144-107. What do you make of the squad? What do you make when you see Kevin Durant was back, Booker was playing, Beal was out, but the Suns were in a good position, and they gave them everything that they could handle in the first half. They end up losing the game. But what do you make when you see them being competitive in that first half against the Suns, and then you see a blowout against the Clippers last night?
The lack of focus. So against the Suns, they were focused, and there's the element of they're rising to the occasion to play up to the opponent. The Clippers are also a good team. They're heading to the playoffs in their world, but last night there was no lack of focus and urgency. And so some of it's mental. The Jets have good players. I mean, Larry Markkinen, that guy's good. And Jordan Clarkson is good. And John Collins is having a career year. And Walker Kessler's a good player, plus all the, quote, younger guys. And so the big thing right now is to be focused and don't think about, quote, that awful word, next year. Try to play as well as you can this season, because remember, Zach, everyone's watching you. So if you think that possibly, and that's the catchword, possibly, you might be traded in the trading deadline, which is Thursday, February 6th, you're trying to audition for a lot of other teams. If the Jazz choose to move you on, if not, you're professional, act professional, and play defense. Last point is this. Last night's game where you can't win a road game if you have 22 turnovers. Zach, it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You're like in the NFL having 3 interceptions and 3 fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way.
Yep.
You can't win no matter what happens. So the Jazz, unfortunately, lead the NBA in most turnovers committed per game at 18.4. So they're ranked number 30. So they've got to correct that.
Yeah, and, I love following you on Twitter because you give, you drop knowledge on there. And one of your tweets is virtues of winning teams that you put out there. And you listed 5 of them. And consistency, sharing, toughness, smartness, and character. And you said these bedrocks in union with skill, talent, advance, game, success. Unit chemistry is forged by valuing each floor mate. So I ask you, what of those 5 do you think is the most glaring and missing from this Jazz squad?
Consistency and sharing. and that's sharing playing defense. So a lot of times, Zach, we say sharing, mean what? Share the ball, and that's certainly important. But help the helper defense. So last night, Harden was going crazy. 24 points in the first quarter, 34 at halftime. So in the switch defense by the Jazz, no matter who was guarding him, the next player on the floor should be so conscious to give organized help to try to assist his teammate to keep Harden in front of them. And so those are those five virtues that winning teams have. Those are the two things that the Jazz can dramatically improve on. Because in white, Zach, it's no fun for the players. I'm not objective because I feel for the players, especially the young veterans, that they want to win. And so they've got to try to, in the locker room, rally themselves to get to be professional about it.
Speaking with Gordy Chiesa, talking tons of basketball, Jazz specifically. We're going to pivot here, right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Gordy, how do you feel about the NBA Cup championship? Because I feel like I get made fun of by my friends because I love the courts. I love the competition. I feel like the players play harder for it based on the fact that, especially for the guys that are, they're making good money, Gordy. But, the ones that are not making $50 million a year or whatever. Now you have two small market teams with the Thunder and the Bucks, Oklahoma City and Milwaukee. How do you feel about the Cup in general? Do you see it as kind of stupid like most of my friends do, or do you think that it's kind of exciting like I do?
No, I think it's exciting very much. Zach, we've never seen the NBA have this much fan interest and player game intensity in November and December. Never. So as good as all these teams were, they were world champions in November and December, they didn't play like this. So the teams and the patrons are engaged. And so the people that say things like that, we respect their opinion. However, I'm going to disagree with them because the players love to compete. So there's a mini goal here. So when you play 4 games in a cup tournament, there's a situation where, all right, let's try to win this. Some teams didn't. 8 teams advanced to the quarterfinals, 4 teams advanced to the semifinals, and tonight's game mentioned earlier, ABC 6:30 start local time is for the championship. Again, the economics of it, just quickly. The winning team tonight, a player share is $514,970. The losing player share is $2,005,988. Most of the players, now not all, donate that money to their favorite charity. The two-way players that still make a good contract, but not like the regular NBA. Zach, in the NBA this year, the lowest you can get paid is basically $1.91 million. $1.91 million, the lowest you can get paid. All right, so the two-way players, they're going to get half of that of the winning share or losing share tonight. So it's important to them. I just like the players competing. That's the European soccer tournament that the NBA took, and it's the second year of it. Last year was the Lakers won it. LeBron James, one of many things he won over his career, was the MVP. Tonight it could be Giannis or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So two of the best players in the NBA, all-NBA first team last year, are playing in Vegas tonight for the Cup Finals.
Before we get to your list, Gordy, I got to ask you a question just because, it's kind of like talking about the Dallas Cowboys. It's what's popular, it's what in the headlines, and you even mentioned LeBron James just there. But his son, Bronny James, who I've got a buddy, Gordy, who's, you're the most locked in on basketball, but in terms of people I know, other than you, he knows high school basketball, college, NBA, all that stuff. And he said that he was like the 4th best player on his high school team. He did not have a great year with USC, obviously had that health scare, and then got drafted specifically because and Griffey Sr. were there, and it was. But now he's in the G League. He will be participating in the G League Winter Showcase this week. He dropped 30 for the first time, and over the past 3 games, he's averaging 20 points on 43.1% shooting, 26.3 from 3, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, again, over his last 3 games for South Bay. When you, as a coach who has coached at multiple levels, when you watch his game, do you think that there's any potential that he could be a significant player in the NBA?
Yes, the answer is yes. His ceiling would be as a backup scoring point guard. So in other words, visualize somebody in a second unit playing roughly 14 to 17 minutes a game, averaging, we'll say 4 years from now, 8.5 points per game and 3.7 assists. Yes, he can play in the NBA and play a role probably off the bench.
The
answer is yes. Those doomsayers that said that, again, last year USC Trojans, and emphasized last year, this year Eric Musselman is the coach now, they were very dysfunctional. So he got caught up in that. But besides the health care you mentioned, is that the whole dysfunctional of USC Trojans. So now he's in the G League, developing his game like any other young guy that's 20, 21 years old.
I got to be honest, Gordy, I'm a little surprised at your answer. I don't think that he's going to be a successful NBA player. You said that he will, but as a backup, so that's kind of in the middle between not being successful and being a star. But I always respect your answer, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm honestly rooting for the kid because I think he's put in a very difficult situation. All right, it would not be a segment with the one and the only Gordy without a list. What do you got for us today, Gordy?
Rebounding wins championships. It really, truly does, because the control of the boards in a game is absolutely critical. Walker Kessler's having a tremendous rebounding season. He's averaging 10.5 rebounds per game quickly. The NBA leader this year in rebounds per game is Karl Anthony Towns Knickerbockers at 13.9. So here's the setup. This list today, Zach, is the NBA career rebound leaders per game.
Okay.
In the history of basketball, per game.
Okay.
Quickly, attributes: 1, positioning; 2, technique; 3, timing; 4, physicality; 5, multiple efforts; 6, instincts; and 7, with the advent of the three-point shot, you need foot speed to chase down the long misses. I call these guys muscle and hustle traffic rebounders. Here we go.
All right.
Top 10 of all time. Elgin Baylor, Hall of Famer, at 6'6", averaged 13.5 rebounds a game for his career. Number 9 in the Hall of Fame from the Celtics, Dave Cowens, averaged 13.6 rebounds for his career.
Wow.
Number 8 all time, Hall of Famer Walt Bellamy, averaged 13.7 rebounds per game. Number 7.
Hey, sorry. I got to interrupt you because I have no idea who that is, and I know you're a basketball historian. Can you give me just a quick summary on Bellamy?
Yeah, Bellamy was played back in the 60s and 70s, and ironically, his last year in basketball was a 74-75 season with the expansion New Orleans Jazz. So he was a big guy, that 6'11", that Hall of Famer, averaged over 20 points a game and 13.7 rebounds for over 1,000 games.
I wonder why I've never heard his name, Gordy, but I appreciate the summary.
His nickname, we used to call him Big Bells.
Okay, what's 7?
Big Bells.
Okay.
Like some of your old girlfriends, Big Bells. I'm not going there. I'm just saying. I'm not going to go there.
I got you, Gordy. What's 7?
All right, number 7, Wes Unseld, 6'7", rock of a person, Hall of Famer, averaged 14.0 rebounds a game as a non-jumper, generally speaking. Incredible. Number 6 all time. He played for the Cavaliers and the Warriors in the Bay Area, Hall of Famer Nate Thurman, averaged 15 rebounds a game.
Wow.
Again, I didn't say one time. I'm saying for his career, he played over 1,000 games.
Yeah, these numbers are really high, Gordy. I'm shocked at what 1 and 2 and 3 are going to be because you're already at 15. That's crazy. Go ahead. What's 5?
Number 5, Jerry Lucas. Jerry Lucas played for the Knickerbockers, also Golden State Warriors. He averaged 15.6 rebounds a game, also in the Hall of Fame. So I keep saying Hall of Fame because this is unbelievable. If you're a rebounder, you're so valued by your teammates and usually winning championships. Number 4 all time. Besides averaging 27 points a game, he played for the St. Louis Hawks. Bob Pettit, Hall of Famer, averaged 16.2 points per game. Rebounds per game. 16.2 rebounds per game, including 26 points per game. Zach, one time about 3 o'clock in the morning on the Jazz airplane, Karl Malone, who's hardly ever slept, so did I, hardly ever slept on a plane, came down to the aisle next to me, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, tell me about Bob Pettit. So Bob Pettit played at LSU. So Carl just broke one of his records as far as a rebounding total in the game. Carl wanted to know about him. Number 3 all time. And this is a sad story because we don't know how great he would be. First thing, he averaged 17.3 rebounds per game, and he only played in the NBA for 3 seasons. His name was Maurice Stokes. He was 6'7". He was the Rookie of the Year in 1956, the Rookie of the Year. The last game of the 1958 season, he crashed to the floor and hit his head on the floor. The last game of the year, and that created a brain seizure, and that stopped his career. And he died at age 36, 12 years later. And in honor of him and his teammate Jack Twyman, the NBA honor they called the Stokes Twyman Award. It goes to the NBA Teammate of the Year, voted by the players. So in Jazz basketball, that was 2 years ago, Mike Conley.
Wow.
So Maurice.
They're still
Stokes,
doing it?
Yes, every year. They do it every single year.
Wow, okay.
And so last year, it was Drew Holiday.
That's awesome.
Of the Celtics.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In honor of Jack Twyman, who became his legal guardian. So what happened when Maurice Stokes couldn't play anymore, and all the doctor bills, Jack Twyman and his team became his legal guardian to try to raise money for him.
Wow.
All right, second all time.
Yep.
We all love this guy. We all know him. He's the greatest winner in the history of basketball. Bill Russell, Hall of Famer. He averaged 22.5 rebounds.
Come on.
22.5.
Bill Russell averaged 22 rebounds a game?
22.5, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
For his career. And the number one guy, we always talk about him all the time. He's the Hall of Famer. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 22.9 rebounds per game.
You know what? I bet you as competitive as those two guys are, because I've watched and read a lot about Bill Russell and Wilt the Stilt, I bet you he loves that he edged Russell out by 0.4 rebounds a game.
Very much. Here's the last point about everything, is that the NBA officially didn't record both offense and defensive rebounds not until the 1973-74 season. So the way it is now, for every missed shot or the shots taken goes out of bounds, they call it a team rebound, there has to be a rebound. If the shot's in the air, hits the rim, you have to record a rebound. But up until 1973-74, they didn't. So with Wilt and with Bill Russell and with Nate Thurman, Wes Unseld, Bellamy, and all those guys, we never know. They're not really including also offensive rebounds in there.
Quickly here, how do you feel about people that try to get a triple-double and, like, throw the ball off the backboard and then get it back? Are you yay or nay on that?
Oh, absolutely nay. As a matter of fact,
agreed.
Go after them, take their head off when they try to do it. And that's what happened with the Jazz one time. Zach, one time we're playing in Cleveland, and DeShaun Stevenson, the Cavalier player, tried to get a triple-double on us, and DeShaun saw it happening, and he went after the guy and fouled the guy before the guy gave a rebound.
I love it. You're the best, Gordy. Look forward to doing this live in person on Thursday. You have a blessed Tuesday, sir.
Thank you. Peace out.
Peace out. We're all about the peace. That is the treasure, Gordy. All right, coming up next, fifth, fun in the 50s. Don't forget, you can always participate in the show. Go ahead, vote on the poll at ESPN 700. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. Text in your thoughts as well, 877-353-0700. Let's go around the wacky world of sports, shall we? That's coming up next on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here on ESPN 700. Coming up, top of the hour, little red and blue segment with our guy, Jerem Jordan. Talk some BYU hoop, BYU football, mix in a little Utah Utes football. Always a pleasure to be joined by Jerem. We'll do that top of the hour. But right now, it's time for the fifth. That is Fun in the 40s, which is part of the Hot Lunch, which is brought to you by Lemon Shark Poke. Fresh fish and locally sourced vegetables to the highest quality. Try the OC Bowl. He's got his own bowl. We need a Zakariah Bowl. Or if you're feeling something hot, try one of their bento boxes, including spicy tuna and crispy rice. Go to lemonsharkpoke.com. So it's time to have some fun. And man, was this fun. As James and I were getting ready for the program, he was listening to, of course, the Dan Patrick Show, which leads into this program. And he heard something very interesting from Maurice Jones-Drew. Now, I would hate to say, James, that I'm too old and that Maurice Jones-Drew is no longer a household name. Do you think the majority of the people listening to this program know who Maurice Jones-Drew is?
I think the majority of our listeners do. I would say people Zach's age. Shout out to our guy Z-Rob.
It's like 100.
I'm not.
Oh, Zach. Oh, the other Zach's age. Z-Rob.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our guy.
What percentage
Shout
of
out to
those
Z-Rob.
guys?
I'm not sure. I think
Like
he's
25%?
technically Gen Z. I think Gen Z and younger are probably
Okay, but our
probably
demo,
low.
Our demo is what, 25 to 56 or something? Or
Yeah,
25
I think
to 54?
That's why
Like
I say majority of our
80%?
listeners remember how when he was a Pro Bowler, All-Pro running back with Jacksonville.
Yes.
And many even before that being a star at UCLA before that. But,
Okay.
But yeah, I would say
Go look him up.
Some
if
of
you
the
don't know
younger
who he is.
ones,
Yeah.
because he's not a Hall of Fame running back, right?
Yeah.
he's not
Close though,
that,
right? Would you call him on the brink?
Maybe on the borderline.
Okay.
I don't know that his legacy is lasting enough for the Gen Z.
Okay. Fair enough.
To know who he is, but he is an NFL Network and ESPN
he's
broadcaster now,
Yeah.
so they may know him.
They should.
From there.
All right,
He was a baller, though.
Yes. Anybody that does not know.
Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yes.
Shout out to Chris Berman for
Berman.
the great nickname there.
Anybody that does not know MJD, go ahead and look up his highlight reel. He was a bowling ball he was fast, but he was physical. Anyways, he was one. I guess maybe I'm just associating him with Madden because I wasn't a Jaguars fan.
If you're a Madden guy,
yeah,
then you know him for sure too.
Yeah.
But he was a baller in his day, man.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not quite the Hall of Fame lasting legacy guy, but in his day, man, he was good.
Yeah, and as I sort of angered people with the fantastic audio from the wide receiver, Xavier, for the Panthers about raccoons, which I want to play pretty much every day. But, I angered some vegetarians out there. Look, I didn't do it. He did it, and I just find it to be entertaining. People eat meat. People eat deer. People eat all sorts of things. He happens to eat raccoon. So you can't get angry at me. I'm not, encouraging it. I just found it to be astonishing because I've never met anybody that ate raccoon.
Welcome to the show, by the way, all our vegetarian listeners.
Yes.
New vegetarian listeners.
Welcome. Yeah, and I love vegetarians. I have no problem with that.
We're sorry to have offended you, but
yes,
welcome
we
to the
didn't
show.
mean to offend, yeah, but I'm going to offend here too because I am not a fan of participation trophies. I grew up where you get a trophy if you win, and that's it. You don't get a trophy if you lose. So I'm not a big participation guy, and I applaud and love the sound that we're about to play of MJD, who coaches football, and he basically said to his kids, both the players on his team and specifically his actual kids, that you know what? You don't get rewarded for not winning. As they lost the state championship, I will allow MJD to say it in his own words. Here he is on the Dan Patrick Show, which you can hear right here.
We lost the state championship game to the number one team in the country.
Did you cry?
I mean, I silent cried, which means I didn't boo-hoo, but a couple tears dropped.
Yeah.
Because, just losing is hard. And we're getting back to the drawing board and we're ready to go. See the kids in a couple weeks. We're not even going to do Christmas.
What?
Kids don't even get Christmas this year. Santa doesn't come to losers' houses. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So the kids already know. Like Santa doesn't come. He doesn't like that. He loves winners. So we gotta figure this thing back out again.
That is just.
Did you know that, Zakariah? I hadn't heard that in 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Santa only comes to winners' houses.
Yeah.
If I knew that, I would have tried to win more.
That's just great. I can just imagine Santa rolling up, going on his phone, checking out the national championship game. Oh, they lost? Oh, okay. Next house.
Coal.
Next house. Yeah. Little coal. Maybe take the cookies, leave the coal, and that's it. No presents. Oh, man, that's good stuff. That is just fantastic stuff. And then I haven't even got to, and we will throughout the program, we have 2 more hours, haven't got to anything from the doubleheader Monday Night Football. One game was an affront to football. Falcons, Raiders. I mean, as typically is the case when they do these doubleheaders. Yeah. One of the games is usually awful. Yeah. And both games, neither game was that entertaining. No. Because a big blowout for the Vikings in the other one. Yeah. But as a part of that, and, unfortunately, I believe it was Larry Fitzgerald's father, Larry Fitzgerald Sr., tweeted out something about Randy Moss having liver cancer and that his eyes were yellow, and he was just saying prayers out. And then I believe Randy Moss's son came out and said, you don't know what he has. You don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't be tweeting that. And that's very inappropriate for Larry Fitzgerald. But then Randy did say, I'm going through something and it's serious. Yes. So he didn't say specifically, but he has said he hasn't denied that he's not going through a serious health problem. No, for sure. And it might be liver cancer, but that is not Larry Fitzgerald Sr.'s place to be tweeting that out. Definitely true. But it was awesome. And here's some audio. Justin Jefferson, the fantastic, amazing wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, scored early in the game, I should say, in the first quarter. Obviously, Randy Moss had an unbelievable career with the Vikings. Then I think he went to the Raiders, and then I think he went to the Patriots, and then I think he went to the Niners. But most known for his unbelievable years in Minnesota, and you also see him on NFL Countdown in the mornings on Sunday. The You Got Mossed segment is incredible. But Justin Jefferson, here he is paying tribute to Randy Moss and giving him a shout out after he scored on Monday Night Football. And that was basically him yelling, "We love you, Randy. This one's for you." And so I thought that was a very cool moment as Justin Jefferson. Probably, has there been you would go Moss and then Jefferson, right? I mean, who was in between wide receiver-wise for the Vikings? I can't think of a star off the top of my head. I don't think anyone in between, but Chris Carter was there. Oh, yeah, for sure. Right before Randy, and at the same time, they overlapped a little bit as teammates. Yeah. How cool was the pregame, by the way? Speaking of Chris Carter, they had a Randy Moss tribute. Chris Carter and I can't remember the other guy off the top of my head, but 2 former Vikings, including CeCe, they did a little that's cool pregame tribute too, which was awesome. So. And you saw a lot of Randy Moss jerseys. Yes. It's a thing now where when people walk in to see the outfits and people wear crazy stuff, specifically the tight end for the Browns, Njoku. Yeah. He wore like a leather jacket and that's it, like no shirt. So like it's a huge thing when players enter. They like film them and put it all over. It's a fashion show. Social media, for sure. And I saw a lot of Randy Moss jerseys, just like a normal outfit, but a Randy Moss jersey. Especially considering people were not liking him very much in Minnesota when he left. Yeah, he did not have a great ending in Minnesota. He did the thing where he mooned, the goalpost or whatever. He had an incident with a traffic cop. And he was a diva wide receiver, like most of them are. Yeah, like a T.O. And he decided he wanted to leave, and fan bases never like that. But it's nice to know when he really needs to feel the support and love of people who admired him as a player and those close to him. It's nice to see that the Vikings fans kind of put that aside and are like, you know what, you're ours. Yeah, 100%. That's great. And look, Randy Moss was a diva just like T.O. was, but neither of them had legal troubles. There was no sexual assault. There was no, there was not laws that were broken. They weren't like bad people. They just, they were controversial and they were a diva, like a lot of wide receivers are. Something like similar to what you've seen with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia, which with that very convincing win, I think, is finally put to bed. All right, coming up next, let's talk some Utah football, a little Utah basketball. We'll sprinkle some Utah Utes questions in there from my guy, Jerem Jordan, in the red and blue segment coming up to start our second hour. 1 in the books, 2 to go. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Coming up, bottom of the hour, Tony Jones, Utah Jazz, Denver Nuggets, Philadelphia 76ers, beat writer for The Athletic. We'll talk some round ball with him, but right now it is time for the red and blue with Jarom Jordan. He is BYU Sports Nation host on BYU TV. Jarom, how you doing, bud? Thank you for joining me again.
I'm great, Zach. How you doing, brother?
No complaints at all over here. I woke up and just had one of those good days. The shower went well. The shaving went well. You know what I mean? I like my fit, so I'm in a good mood today, Jarom. And I'm assuming the BYU people over there, I know we talked about it a little bit, but getting the number one recruit over there in the week that it's been since I last spoke to you, what has the buzz been around BYU and just the huge landing of the number one overall projected pick for the NBA?
Absolute elation, excitement, anticipation. BYU felt like they had a really good chance of getting AJ DeBonsa, and then, man, they were in the mix, and the confidence and the validation that comes with getting that kind of guy on a program is immense. Kevin Young and his staff have done an amazing job. The donors around BYU, which it was fun that Ryan Smith actually commented on Friday, hey, it wasn't me with AJ. So it's Ryan. It's Ryan and a host of awesome donors. Some are less known than others that kind of want to donate and just remain in the shadows, right? But pretty exciting for a program that's getting some real NBA talent here, which it hasn't seen in quite a long time, which is exciting.
Just for you, Jarom, what are you expecting the buzz to be around the games? Do you expect – I mean, I know they always show up and show out, but do you expect an extra level of buzz? I mean, this is almost like I hate to make a horrible comparison, but it's almost like a Kardashian is coming to BYU. Like, I expect it there to be, celebrities, and I expect it to be a packed house. This is huge.
Yeah, I was here during Gym Romania, and that was BYU's version of that, right? People showing up, packed houses. Like, BYU already has great crowds, but I think it's going to be, as Brian Regan said, stuffed to the rafters. Every home game, nearly, right, for BYU men's basketball. Helps that you play in a big-time conference in the Big 12. Those games are already compelling, let alone having perhaps the best player in the country, the projected number one pick. It's going to be exciting. I think BYU is going to have some great TV situations. I think they're going to get set up with a couple games where ESPN and Fox want to show off AJ. So BYU is going to have probably a tougher non-conference schedule, and it's going to be awesome.
I am doing my best over here. Obviously, this is Utah Ute Nation, and I'm speaking with the enemy. I know the battle is real and the fights are real. I mean, not really, but hopefully it's all in good spirits. But how much have you kept up with what BYU is doing with the transfer portal? I know I'm constantly watching all the guys that are moving out for Utah and the guys that are coming in. How's it looking for BYU? I'm assuming it's going to be a better recruiting class this year based on how much success they had during the regular season, almost making it to the 12-team playoff.
You would think so, but most of BYU's signees in the early football signing period were committed before the season. So they were in before. So the real impact of the season may not even come till next year. And BYU is unique in that, 70% or more of these guys are going on missions first. So you don't really see them for a couple of years. So there are a few impact guys that are coming that certainly want to be a part of the program, but most were committed before the season. But in terms of the transfer portal itself, there are only two guys that kind of stick out. The rest were guys that maybe you could have guessed not as much playing time or wanted to go to a different situation. Crew Wakely is BYU starting strong safety for most of the year. He was a bit of a surprise. He's not going to play in the bowl game, so that's a bit of a blow. But BYU was pretty deep at that position. They've gone, frankly, 3 or 4 deep there. Last year they had 5 different guys played due to injury, so feeling pretty good about that position, although it's a bummer not to have Crew Wakely. And then Jackson Bowers was an ESPN top 300 overall guy who's a tight end out of Arizona who jumped in the portal, didn't play last year, barely played this year, kind of got hurt. He was expected to be one of those guys in the future, and he jumped in the portal, so that's a bit disappointing. But we do have to remember that the NCAA came out and said, due to some House legislation, hey, you can't have 120 anymore. You got to get your roster down to 105. And if you want to pay all 105, that's great. But the SEC has said, no, we're going to do like 85 scholarships still kind of thing. But you can have 20 quote-unquote walk-ons at that point. Are you paying them separate from the scholarship? Are they also getting NIL? There's kind of 3 pockets of money here. So everyone in college football right now is having to deal with this of, hey, they're talking to probably 15 or 20 guys that they don't think would make that 105 right now, and telling them to get in the portal. I'm not saying that's the case with like a Jackson Bowers. He would be on the team, in my opinion. But it's certainly a weird situation, not to mention the timing associated with bowl games in the playoff, which is really an issue. We've got to figure out what the solution here is. And the only thing I can come up with is you either have no portal open at the end of December, which is would be weird because you want people in early January to get in spring ball and whatnot, or you have to move the season up entirely so it doesn't conflict with the bowl games and whatnot. I would welcome more August football. Trust me. Late in the summer, I'm like, I need football now. I don't want to wait till September.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Look, I feel like everybody's trying to conform and figure out all the changes. It seems like it happened pretty rapidly, not over like a long period of time. I mean, it took a long time to make the changes, but once they came, it just kind of came all at once, and I think everybody's sort of adjusting. We're talking with Jerome Jordan, BYU Sports Nation host on BYU TV right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Talk to me about Kalani Sitake. Obviously, a long-term contract extension. We don't know exactly the terms, and he's obviously somebody that is completely fit for the job, and I am not trying to disparage him one iota. However, it has been a sort of a theme with, the team sort of falling late in the season, and we've talked about it a little bit, but is there any sort of thing that you can do about it? Is it just a matter of running on fumes towards the end of the season, injuries mounting up? Is there talk about what happens late in the season for BYU?
I don't think so because, and I see your point. BYU lost 5 in a row last year. They lost 2 or 3 right here. Hopefully they, win a bowl game, and then it's not as big of a talking point. But if they do, it's even more, right? It would be 3 out of 4 losses, and that would be disappointing. But it's just so interesting that, like, against Kansas, BYU needed, like, 1 of 4 things to happen that didn't. Like, you have a weird pooch punt that hits the player's helmet. You get a first – even then, you get a 1st and 10 at the 15. You don't cash in. You have a false start penalty that backs you up 5 yards, and the next play you're like a yard or 2 short on your completion at the end of the game. Arizona State, you go down 21-0 in the first half. Like, if you just don't make a big mistake here or there, you're probably in a position where you win one of those 2 games. ASU is playing great. It's probably the Kansas game at home, right? And then it's not as big a deal. So, no, I don't think so. And BYU was making most of those plays early in the season. So, at some point, the bill comes due, and you can't get every bounce, and it's a bummer, but it is what it is.
What do you make, red and blue, this is what we got, BYU and Utah, the rivalry, what a game it was this past year. I felt like Utah should have won, but, you guys won, no big deal. But what do you make of all the moves with Utah? I kind of salute and tip my cap to Coach Witt for making a very big upheaval of the offensive side and sort of Utah, their offense becoming Utah, New Mexico West, sort of bringing over the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. What do you expect to see? Because, if they had any semblance of the defense, Jerem, on the offensive side, they probably would have won 9 games and been in a bowl game, but their offense was just horrible. So what do you make of all the changes that you've seen at Utah?
Certainly, when Utah has an offense, it is a contender in the league it's in, and so I am actually concerned now because Jason Beck is legit, former BYU quarterback. He's brought in a bunch of BYU guys. Coy Detmer Jr. Is the son of Coy Detmer from the NFL, nephew of Ty Detmer with the BYU Ties, of course, and then Micah Simon in there as well as a wide receivers coach, and Mark Atuaya is running back coach. I know all those guys. And those are good dudes, good coaches. They did really well in their assignments at New Mexico and Washington State, respectively, this last year. And so, yeah, you bring in Dan Pierre, you get Isaac Wilson back. Certainly there's some talent in that room. So, yeah, that's an absolute concern from the BYU perspective because the Utah defense is always really solid. And Jason Beck is a really good coordinator. He's proven that now at Syracuse and New Mexico. And he's going to get a shot with a very capable defense and always good special teams. So, it's going to be interesting, man. And, yeah, there's no greater self-preservation thing to do than let go of one side of the ball, right, if they struggled. And so I totally get that. That happens everywhere. And Kyle Whittingham had to make the move that he felt was necessary. And that offense really struggled. So you got to make a move. And now it's now it's another chapter in the rivalry of, like, look at all those BYU guys on the Utah staff and look at the Utah guys on the BYU staff. I think it's great. I think it's fun.
Yeah, is that a running joke, Jerem? That I heard something. I forget what I was listening to. I consume so many podcasts and radio shows and TV shows, but I heard somebody in the BYU community sort of making a joke, like, is Utah ever going to get somebody that wasn't formally at BYU? Is that a running joke over there?
Well, I think both sides, it plays into that. It's BYU's defensive coordinator is obviously from Utah, and Jay Hill, and the defensive line coach, Joni Puha. Gary Anderson is an analyst here at BYU. So I think it's part of the deal. And, we like to have fun with, all whack Cougar linebacker Kyle Whittingham from 1981. Like, obviously it doesn't embrace that. It's all good. Like, I think it's part of the rivalry is that you kind of share in that. I think BYU and Utah are a little more unique, though, because you don't see that with Ohio State and Michigan. You don't see, like, 3 Buckeyes on the Michigan staff or whatever. You don't see that with Alabama and Auburn, I don't think. I think it's kind of unique to BYU and Utah as these two brothers who kind of played for the other team. Now they're competing against each other as the opposing coaching staff. I think it's fun. I enjoy it.
What are you making of this BYU game against Florida A&M on Friday at home? Utah plays them tonight. How much have you dived into watching Florida A&M, and how do you think the two Utah schools will fare against them?
Well, I know I've dived in a little bit, getting ready for our pregame coverage coming up Friday. But, yeah, Shaquille O'Neal's son is on Florida A&M.
Hang on, Jerem. You're telling me Shaquille O'Neal has a son named Shakir O'Neal?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, that's amazing.
Yeah, so he's on the squad. They've struggled. They play a really tough schedule with TCU and Baylor, and now they're playing Utah and BYU. So they're trying to get those money games. So this should be an easy win for both Utah and BYU. But, get a nice non-conference win to wrap things up and then prepare for conference play coming up next week, which will be really exciting in the Big 12.
So one last one. Going into next year, do you expect just having AJ just by himself? Do you think that this is going to be a team that makes a big run? I know there's other players alongside him, and I know that, one of the big recruits, I believe, has to go on a mission, so he won't be playing with him. But is AJ going to have enough around him, do you think, for them to make some noise in the March Madness?
Very well could. When you have a player of that caliber, especially in the sport of basketball, where one guy can have a huge influence on the game, like even having a great quarterback, like if you have no line, you're toast. Basketball is fun that way, where it's like one dude can control everything. It's like a movie star in that way. You're going to see that one guy on the screen. Sure, absolutely. Xavier Staten is another kid that's going to come in, top 30 recruit, a center out of Las Vegas, which would be exciting. Don't anticipate Yegor Demon to be around, hopefully in the NBA, Cam Catchings as well. But BYU's going to bring back some nice pieces, and Richie Saunders and Dallin Hall, we anticipate, Kay Bakeda, and others, if not more, transfer portal guys. So, yeah, the hope is that BYU can make a run. It's required the National Player of the Year for BYU to go to the Sweet 16 before, Danny Ainge, Jimmer Fredette. The hope is that a guy like A.J. DeBonsa can get you into that space as well, if not more, because part of the reason he came to BYU is wants to win the Natty. BYU didn't have a super strong history of winning in the tournament, but when they have a player of that ilk, they have shown that they can go pretty far.
Jarom Jordan, follow him on Twitter at that same name, Jarom Jordan. Fantastic follow. BYU Sports Nation co-host, also does play-by-play seen on Fox Sports, ESPN Plus, BYU TV, all that good stuff. Jarom, any chance you're going to the Utah Hockey Club game tomorrow?
I actually will be there. Yeah, I'll be working for the Canucks, actually, behind the scenes, yeah.
All right, well, I believe we follow each other on Twitter, so I'll DM you, and maybe we can meet up at the game because I'm going for the first time. I'm excited.
Heck yeah, you're going to love it. It's a great atmosphere. It's a lot of fun.
And I'm definitely wearing my puff coat because I've been to some Sharks games up in San Jose, and it is cold in there. Every time I talk about a hockey game and I talk to the listeners out there, I tell them, like, pretend like you're going to be outside because I know it's ice and you see it, but it's freezing in there.
No, seriously, I wear an extra layer. Even the Jazz games this year, it's cool in there, man.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, we'll meet up then. Appreciate your time, as always. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Zach.
There you go. Jerem Jordan, co-host, BYU Sports Nation. Again, give him a follow, good follow. Be smarter. Get information at Jerem Jordan. All right, coming up next, it is time to talk a little round ball, shall we, with Tony Jones, Utah Jazz, Denver Nuggets, Philadelphia 76ers beat writer for The Athletic. We'll talk some round ball with him, all coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah, hold it down right here, ESPN 700. No OC is enjoying his vacation, but I'm his right-hand man, Zakariah, holding it down on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Coming up, about 15 minutes. We call it the fifth. Shout out to Dave Chappelle and his show. We call it the fifth. Fun in the 40s or the 50s, depending on our timing, where we go around the wacky world of sports. But right now, let's go to the actual hardwood, not the off the court or off the field stuff. We go to Tony Jones. Follow him on Twitter at TJones on the NBA. Covers the Jazz and the Nuggets and the Sixers. He needs to update his Twitter profile and the NBA for The Athletic. Tony, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining me.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's start with the Jazz. I was live at the Delta Center for the Jazz and the Suns. Very competitive first half. I think sort of the more talented Suns, specifically Booker and KD, kind of took over in the second half. But they were very competitive in the first half. When you watch this team, do you get frustrated seeing the potential and then you see a blowout loss like last night, 144-107, or are you encouraged when you have halves like the first half against the Suns?
No, because I think you have to look at the context of what this year is. And, I think what this year is for the Jazz is, they're going to play a lot of young guys, a lot of minutes, and I think that when you have guys in key spots, like when you have Keontae George playing 35 minutes at the point guard spot, and when you have Johnny Juzang playing a chunk of minutes, and Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski, and you keep going down the line, you're gonna have nights like this. You're gonna have nights where you're at home and you make a million 3-pointers, and you're in a real game with the Suns, and then you're going to have nights where, you go on the road and you take your lumps. So, the context of this season for the Jazz is, you develop, and, after you develop, you give yourself the best chance that you can get at either Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. So, I think that if you're a Jazz fan, I think that, it can be frustrating seeing stuff like that, but, you gotta kind of keep your eyes on the prize and your eyes at the end of the tunnel and keep in context what this season is about in a macro perspective.
How do you feel, Tony, about Will Hardy? I think he's a coach that has a lot of potential. I think the organization and the fan base realize the situation that he was put in, which is a complete rebuild. But when I see lack of effort or I see guys giving up on plays, I can't help but wonder whether or not Will Hardy is the guy. How do you feel about the job that he's done coaching? Obviously grading on a curve because he doesn't have a lot of pieces to work with.
I think Will Hardy is one of the best young coaches in the NBA. And, I think that when the Jazz get to the point to contending for a championship, is one of the big pieces is going to be Will Hardy. I think he's an absolutely fantastic coach. Like, not a good coach. I think he's a fantastic one.
Wow.
He's in terms of what the Jazz have been, it's taken them as long as they have to be able to tear it down, because Will has been such a good coach. If you give him pieces, he's going to maximize those pieces, and he's going to give you a competitive. He's going to give you a competitive product. So when you give him elite pieces, which is what the Jazz are trying to do through the draft, not only this year, but I suspect next year as well, I think that Will Hardy's going to be the guy to maximize those pieces and put the Jazz in position to contend for and win a championship.
High praise. I appreciate that. We're talking with Tony Jones, covers the NBA for The Athletic right here. Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Tony, you are a self-described hoops addict, so I wonder what your thoughts are on the Cup and the Cup Championship getting played tonight. Some people saying maybe a possible finals preview. I know the Celtics are favored in the East, but Giannis, I think, is one of the most dominant players in the NBA, going up against the Thunder. Two small market teams, Tony, but what have you made of it? I happen to be, and I get made fun of by a big fan of it all. I like and take it seriously. What do you make the Cup final?
I don't like the courts. I hate the courts. I think the courts are hideous. However, I like everything else about it. I mean, I love the competition of it. Like you said, I love the fact that the players are taking it seriously. I'm not sure that this is going to be a finals preview because I think the Celtics are head and shoulders better than the Bucks. I think the Cavaliers are better than the Bucks, and I think when it comes down to it, I think it will be tough for the Bucks to get through the Knicks as well. But I think this is a fantastic matchup. I think looking at Giannis and you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I just did an ESPN straw poll last night, and in that straw poll I had SGA and Giannis as two of my first three MVP votes. So you're looking at two premier players. You're looking at Damian Lillard and Jalen Williams. It's a really, really good, fun, and intriguing matchup, and I think it's a matchup between two teams that kind of get it done a little bit differently. So I like that. The styles are a little bit different as well. So I'm looking forward to it, and and I think that this year, like last year, when it was the Pelicans and the Lakers, I think that the NBA got itself a really good matchup for the Cup. So I'm definitely in favor of it.
Talk to me about what you think is going to happen come trade deadline time. I know it's a few months away, but there's been a lot of speculation. Jimmy Butler, I've seen a lot, whether or not maybe he could go to the Mavericks, which I think would have a trouble with the payroll in terms of that, or maybe the Warriors, or maybe the Suns, I've heard, for Jimmy Butler. And then the Pelicans are kind of a disaster. And so Zion might be available. McCollum might be available. And then Michael Wilbon, who I love and respect for ESPN PTI, has been pushing a lot for LeBron to get traded to the Warriors. I don't know how they do that with the apron and all that stuff as well. But what have you heard in terms of the trade deadline, and what do you expect to see in terms of pieces getting moved?
Well, I mean, at this point, it's just talk and a lot of conjecture. And, I've been covering the league for 10 years. And, in my experience, the trades that get done are the trades that just aren't really necessarily talked about, and kind of bandied about on talk shows. So, is Jimmy Butler on the market? I would suspect the answer is yes. Just simply because, I know that Miami's been willing to trade him before, but we'll see what happens. But in terms of what's going to happen in February, or what's going to happen around that time, we're still kind of in the NBA wise a million years away from that. So, the trade deadline, the trade window opened on Sunday, which means that guys that signed and were traded over the summer, a lot of those guys are now eligible to be traded. But we'll see what happens. I think teams are still in a mode of collecting data, and you tend to see trades and talks and things like that kind of heat up a little bit more once the trade deadline gets a little bit closer. Right now, we're December 17th. On the whole, we're still a little bit too far out to really adequately talk about that stuff kind of seriously. Like the Dennis Schroeder trade, you might get a random trade here and there. But in terms of what the league does, how the league does its business, we're still about 4 or 5 weeks away from that.
Let's go micro, Tony, in terms of what you've seen thus far, a couple of months into the season. What are the teams that have been surprisingly better than you thought, and what are the teams that are surprisingly worse than you thought?
It's a good question. Obviously, you have to look at the Philadelphia 76ers as being surprisingly worse.
Mm-hmm.
But there's obvious context there. They haven't been healthy all year. they've had one thing or another go wrong for them all season. And, when you have that kind of, similar to the Pelicans, really, like when you have those kind of injury issues, those kind of sweeping things that kind of go wrong with you, it's really hard. It's really difficult to kind of overcome some of that stuff. I think with Philly, I think, them being in the Eastern Conference, they're still going to be in it in terms of
play-in tournament, probably.
In terms of still having a chance to make the playoffs. But obviously, 7-16 is 7-16, or 8-16 is 8-16. So, I think that's definitely been, one of the teams. I'm not surprised about Houston. I thought Houston was going to be good. I don't know that I thought that they'd be second or third seed in the Western Conference good, but I thought that they'd be a lot better than last year because, Ime Udoka is such a great coach, and, they had a lot of talent there. I saw Memphis come in because they were in a position as like New Orleans last year where kind of everything went wrong with them that could go wrong. And, they got healthy, and they got a lottery pick in Tyus Edey. So, I thought that Memphis was going to be pretty good as well. So I would say that probably Philadelphia is probably the biggest surprise for me.
Okay, and then just one last question before I let you go: are the Cavs this good, 23-4?
Oh yeah, they're really good. I saw them in person against the Denver Nuggets a couple of weeks ago, and they are very, very good. They shoot the ball exceptionally well. They spread you out. Donovan Mitchell's playing better than he's ever played, and Evan Mobley has taken a real leap. So yeah, they're certainly as good as their record.
Tony Jones covering the NBA up and down, the Jazz as well for The Athletic. Go ahead and give him a follow. Get smarter about the NBA and your Jazz out there on Twitter at TJones on the NBA. Tony, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
There you have it. Tony Jones. Good stuff there. Cavs, I don't know. James, I don't know about you, but I have certain teams where I'm just never going to be a believer. And when it comes to college football, those teams are Penn State and Notre Dame. They're always up there. They're always kind of in the mix. They always let you down and lose the big game. And for whatever reason with the Cavs, and don't get me started on their – okay, I got a buddy that's from Cleveland, and I make fun of him all the time because the Browns have never won a Super Bowl. The used-to-be Indians, now Guardians, have never won a World Series. And the Cavs should have never won a championship. Draymond Green kicked LeBron in the you-know-whats. They were up, was it 3-1 or 3-0?
3-1.
3-1. Yeah. Kicked him in the you-know-what. Draymond went and watched the A's game across from the Coliseum with, I believe, GM Bob Myers. He missed that game. They lose. They go to Cleveland. They lose. Then LeBron blocks Iguodala's layup, and Kyrie hits one of the biggest shots in Game 7. They should not have a championship. Anyways, the Cavs are up there where, I mean, unless LeBron's on the team, it's one of those teams where I'm like, I don't really believe. But Tony said they're for real.
I'm with you. I'm kind of a believe it. I'll believe it when I see it in the playoffs with Cleveland right now. That's not to say that I don't completely disagree with Tony. They do look different this year, but
you're with me.
I
you don't really believe.
That's how I was with the Celtics last year. As great a regular season they had, I was waiting for them to show me in the playoffs that they're not going to get upset by an 8th-seeded Heat team, for example.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Which they did, yeah.
I was waiting for them to show me that they can be champions, and they did emphatically last year. So maybe Cleveland has the same thing in them, but this Cleveland team does remind me of the 2021 Jazz, except they play better defense.
Yeah,
for sure. But that team, that 2021 Jazz team, a lot of us around here thought, okay, they're title contenders again. They were the number 1 seed in the West. Donovan gets hurt, and he plays really well in the playoffs, but he's playing hurt the whole time. And Conley gets hurt, changed a lot of things for him. But they showed injuries being a part of it, that they didn't really have it when they needed it most. They were a great regular season team, not so good in the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me that much if this year's Cavs was similar. It would surprise me a little bit if they make it to the finals. I'll be honest with you there.
Yeah, I mean, I just, the Celtics was less surprising because that was more of a like needing to break through, but they had so many stars on their team. You look at the Cavs, they have 6 players averaging double digits, and I know Donovan Mitchell is a star, but you go Donovan Mitchell, then you go Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, Ty Jerome. I don't know. I can't see them getting to even the Eastern Conference Finals. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could see them getting to the second round, maybe not the third.
Yeah, I would probably pick.
Whoever
pick
they
the
played
Knicks
in the second round.
If they faced off against the Knicks in the second round, I'd probably pick the Knicks in that series.
Agreed.
But I'd pick it to be a 6 or 7 game series.
Okay. All right.
And then I would have them losing to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals if they did make it that far.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am with it. The reason why the Celtics are certainly different, even though I just compared them to last year's Celtics a little bit, is we saw them make a finals before they won last year. We saw them make a number of Eastern Conference Finals with this same core.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a Donovan Mitchell-led team do that.
Yeah.
We haven't seen, let alone this Cavs team. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I have the Celtics above them, obviously.
Yeah.
I have the Knicks above them. I have the Bucks above them. I probably have the Magic, depending on the health of
Banchero.
Yeah. And the Heat, they've struggled. They're a 6 seed right now, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Heat beat them. I don't know. I just don't believe in them. I don't know. Just my own thing. All right, coming up next, we will do fifths. Fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s. We have more stuff from Maurice Jones-Drew, his son, Deuce Jones-Drew. Some stuff on that and more from the wacky world of sports. We'll do that next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700.
Is your son being recruited?
He is. He is being recruited. He has offers by Cal and Utah right now. Has a couple other schools talking to him. So he's a sophomore, but he had a really good sophomore year, and we're getting ready for our junior year here. Like I said, back to it. No Christmas this year.
That is the voice of Dan Patrick and Maurice Jones-Drew revealing Utah is one of the offers his son Deuce has received. You heard that on the Dan Patrick Show, which you can hear every morning from 7 to 11. 7-11, easy to remember, here on Utah's number one. That's right, number one sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the program. Final segment of the second hour. One more to go, of course, for you on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon now. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down for him on ESPN 700. Coming up, top of the hour, final hour of the program, we will have a conversation with OC's other right-hand man, Jeff Schwartz. I don't know why I have to say Schwartz like that, but I just do.
He's made him English a little bit.
Schwartz.
I like that.
Schwartz.
We'll see what he thinks about that.
For sure.
The way that they make Fritzy do his impressions of certain guests, we'll do that with you. Schwartz. So we'll talk with Jeff about the NFL, college football, and maybe he'll have some gambling tips for you. Of course, for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, according to OC, he's a bit of a degenerate, Jeff Schwartz.
I know, he makes fun of him all the time. He's like, did you bet on the Hawaii game that started at like midnight? So we'll talk with Jeff, top of the hour. Right now it's time for the fifths. Fun in the 40s. That's where we go around the wacky world of sports. Help me out here, James, because I don't pay much attention to what I would call a sideshow with the Paul brothers. Is Logan Paul the brother of the main guy that fought Tyson?
Yeah, Logan and Jake, I believe they're twins. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Logan Paul fights too?
I think so. According to OC, Jake is the better fighter of the two.
He's the one that fought
Logan
Tyson.
is also dabbling in boxing now.
By the way, for anybody that watched that and happened to, for entertainment purposes only, make a wager on that fight, there are clips of Tyson went at him in the first round, and I believe would have knocked him out. And at one point, because I believe if the fight went the full rounds, there was more money going to Tyson. And you can see a clip where people that read lips, what is it, Jake?
Yeah, Jake was the one who fought Tyson.
Jake
I believe.
says,
now I'm starting to doubt myself because it's hard to keep the brothers straight.
Well, it's not for me. I usually like anything that's exciting and entertaining, but this sideshow is kind of.
It was Jake.
I'm over it.
Jake.
Yeah. So, anyways, Jake says to Tyson in the middle of the fight, "What are you doing? Don't you want to get paid?"
Oh.
Because Tyson was coming after
the
lip
readers.
Yes.
Discovered that. Okay.
So that whole thing was a bleeping shame and a sham, if you will,
and a mockery and a Travis Sham mockery.
All of that. My buddy bet big on Tyson, but I showed it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I knew betting big on it that there was a chance that it was going to be staged."
See,
that totally was.
That's too bad for your buddy because just about everybody. It seemed like just about everybody had knew going in that it was going to be a staged fight.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
so that's too bad your buddy lost some money on
I mean, he knew there was a chance of that, and we got to see.
Hopefully, it wasn't too much money.
We got to see Mike Tyson's butt cheeks. If you watched any of the woman fight before it was incredible.
Was it?
That was my goodness.
See, I didn't tune in at all.
You should, however you can view it, because I think
it's still on Netflix. I think you can watch it.
You need to watch the fight
demand.
right before it. Forgive me for not knowing the names of the two fighters, but that was an unbelievable fight. I mean, there was no defense. It was all punching straight to the. And I'm not a big combat fighter. I've said this before about watching OC fights. I would watch with my hands over my eyes and kind of just seeing little spaces in between my fingers because I get squirmish. I'm not a big combat fighting guy, but that fight was incredible. If you have not seen it, go watch the preliminary fight right before Tyson and Paul. But anyways, McGregor and Logan Paul. Does that do anything for you, James? Does that hit the radar for you?
No, I mean, no. It's going to be another sham.
McGregor recently found guilty, I believe, of sexual assault and put out a public apology to his wife for cheating on her. I don't know if she stayed with him or not. But, yeah, anyways, that doesn't do a ton for me. I'm not much of a
I did watch
the
combat
Tyson
sports fan myself,
Okay.
so I don't watch a ton anyway. I'm not really interested in watching one of these sham fights, but hey, some people are, many people are. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I did watch the Tyson fight, but that's mainly because when I was younger, I grew up watching. I mean, that was like Saturday night.
You want to see how much Tyson had left as a nearly 60-year-old man.
100%. So that was more nostalgia than anything else. And shout out, I'm on Instagram Live. My handle is 11Zach11. I'm on Instagram Live. And shout out to Miss Susie out in the Bay Area who let me know that it was Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano.
Okay.
That was the fight. James, I'm not kidding. One of the best fights I've ever seen. Men, women, alien, whatever. They went at each other. I mean, it was vicious.
Yeah,
and I believe
looking
Serrano,
it up, it looks like it was a very tight decision in Taylor's favor, too. So good job for Katie Taylor.
One of the best fights you will ever see. Go check it out. Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. Shout out to Miss Susie for that information. Now, just to go back to MJD's son, to give you some stats. In high school, 61 carries, 450 yards as a sophomore last season at De La Salle. De La Salle is in the Bay Area, I believe.
Area, yes, Concord.
Walnut Creek, yeah. Concord, Walnut Creek, that area.
I figured you were probably familiar with the high school there.
De La Salle was, I mean, I think they made a documentary or a movie. I mean, that is a powerhouse. It was,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, teams constantly were trying to dethrone that juggernaut. I don't know how many games in a row that they won, but they won like back-to-back state championships. That place is what do they call it when it's like transitioning into there's a word for it, like a funnel, not a funnel, something else.
Pipeline.
Pipeline. There you go. Thank you,
college
James.
and NFL pipeline.
Thank you, James. Yes, an absolute pipeline for just high caliber 5-star recruits coming out of high school. His only season as a varsity player, and as MJD said, Utah and Cal Berkeley, my alumni.
I feel like that was for you and our listeners. That was the perfect soundbite. You could get excited for your alma mater, maybe getting Deuce Jones-Drew and our listeners, and you could be a little excited too for a chance of him coming here to Salt Lake City.
For sure. And Miss Susie also says Serrano was robbed. I watched that fight. The problem was the optics of it, James. She had like the biggest gash, I believe her eye, maybe her forehead, whatever it was, but they couldn't even stop the bleeding even in between rounds. So the optics of it, it looked like she got tore up. I mean, it was close. It was an amazing fight, but the optics of Serrano, and she had, I think it was her eye.
It was like we can't give you the victory with that kind of.
It was gushing,
Gotcha.
Gushing, and even in between rounds, they could not get it to stop. But yeah, it was a fantastic fight and something that you should look up. All right, that is fun in the 40s and the 50s coming up. Top of the hour, final hour of the program. We will talk with Jeff Schwartz. We will talk NFL. We will talk college football, and maybe he has some bets that he likes for this upcoming week. We'll do all that next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700.
on 4th and 22. The punt is blocked. Ball bouncing around on the turf at the 15. Karams to the 12, and then it's picked up by Divine Diablo up the left sideline, and he's upended as he gets to the 35. Oh, my goodness.
So there was no possession by Atlanta. Hodge blocked the punt again. Number 12, second time he's got his hands on that, and up the middle, right in front of the right guard. But if they had possessed the ball, if Atlanta had possessed it, and then the Raiders picked it up, it would be the Raiders' ball right now. But it's not going to be first down for Atlanta, and they're in scoring territory. I always loved it when I get a turnover. And I tell guys, if you can get to midfield, stand up on your tiptoes, you can see the end zone.
Stand up on your tiptoes. That was Falcons' blocked punt in last night's affront to football. I hope that if you were trying to get your friends to like football, you did not show them that game. A baseball score, 15-9, Falcons win on Monday Night Football, courtesy of Westwood One, as heard here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, your home of the NFL. That's right. We have great live programming for you, and we also give you all the games, bowl games, NFL games, all that good stuff. Just leave your station locked on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. You are listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down here on ESPN 700. Coming up, bottom of the hour, let's go all around regular sports. Not like the fifth, fun in the 40s. This will just be actual things going on in the sports world, and specifically the changes the NBA made to the All-Star game, which I found to be interesting. It perked my ears up when I heard and then read about the changes that they're making. But right now, let's talk king of all sports. That would be football, NFL, college, and maybe some gambling tips from the one, the only Jeff Schwartz. He joins me now. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
No complaints. It's beautiful out here in Salt Lake. I was happy. The rest of the crew here at Broadway Media was not as thrilled with the snow, but I was like a little kid because I don't get snow in Berkeley at all, Jeff. So when I got about, 3-4 inches of snow, I was pleased as punch. But not everybody that lives here 365 loves the snow as much as a guy that just comes here and fills in for OC for a couple of weeks.
So we're coming to Utah on Saturday.
And I'm leaving on Friday, Jeff. What are you doing? Are you sending me a message?
I am. I'm purposely ignoring you. And I saw the forecast, and I think it might snow Christmas.
Okay.
And that'd be my snow take is I think the same as yours. We don't get it often.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of fun when it happens once, but then I get to leave, which is even better.
Yeah.
So, so we'll be there on Saturday, and I will not be skiing, though my family will, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Kind of like being an uncle. I'm an uncle of 2 nephews and 1 niece. I don't have any kids of my own, but it's kind of like that, You have the kids, and then you get to pass them back to their parents. It's kind of like, for me, there was snow. I loved it, but then I can get away from it. So anyways, Jeff, let's talk some NFL to start here, and specifically what was going on in Philly. Again, it was kind of weird to me because you don't often see in-team fighting when they have as much success as they had. I think they kind of put it all to bed with Sunday's convincing win. But where do you have Philly in terms of teams in the NFC? The Lions obviously decimated by injuries. The Packers had a nice win over the Seahawks. But where do you have Philadelphia in terms of your hierarchy in the NFC?
Yeah, I think I'm going to win the NFC right now. Actually, I wagered on that this week at plus 220, something like plus 230. We get this time of year, and there's a lot of ways we can talk about the teams and their successes. But one thing that we talk about often, and it really does matter, is injuries. And a lot of times, the most injured team, or the vice versa, really the healthiest team, is here this time of season, primed to win a championship, right? And you look at the Eagles right now, and they're very healthy, right? They've got a pretty healthy team. Look at the Lions, and they've allowed 31 points and 48 points now in 2 straight weeks, and they have an entire starting 11 of injured defensive players. And so eventually you just run out of bodies, and it's something that you can out-coach, or you just you just look. Utah's seen this in football over the last couple of years too, right? You just get to a certain point where there's not enough good football players. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It doesn't matter how much you can try to coach your way out of it. Eventually, it runs into issues. And I think right now that's the Lions' problem. So I like the Eagles a lot. I don't like their coach. Don't like their coaching staff. I don't like that there's drama. Now, wide receivers is a little bit different. Those guys are divas and they want the football. But I don't terribly like, I don't know, I like the snarkiness of what Jalen Hurts said after the game. Like, is this what you guys wanted? But it wasn't like a great performance from the passing offense. Like, if that's what we're getting, we're probably not winning the NFC. I don't know. So the things that they do well, though, they control the line of scrimmage, which is hugely important in the postseason, and they can rush the passer, and they don't give explosive plays on defense. So there's lots of things you have to like about the Eagles right now versus the rest of the NFC.
You got Detroit at 12-2. You got the Eagles at 12-2. You got the Packers at 10-4. And then in between there in the third slot is the Minnesota Vikings at 12-2. What do you do, Jeff? You played in the NFL. You have seen how the front office works. What in the hell do you do when you drafted J.J. McCarthy in the first round out of Michigan? He had obviously a small sample size, but looked good in the preseason. Sam Darnold was supposed to be kind of a placeholder, and he's been playing exceptionally. 5 touchdowns thrown, not last night, but the week before, and has just been pretty much lights out. What the hell do you do there? Do you give Sam Darnold a big fat contract? Do you let him walk and roll with J.J. McCarthy? What do you do if you're the Vikings brass?
You give Sam Darnold a hearty handshake and say thank you for your season.
Really?
You got it to where we are, and we'll see you around the bend.
Really?
Yes, they drafted J.J. McCarthy. We have seen this all the time. You pay that quarterback that it's just like, I don't, maybe he's good, maybe he's not. I don't know. You pay that guy, and you immediately regret it. Sam Darnold, by the way, you pay him $60 million a year. Are you comfortable with that figure? Because that's what the going rate is right now for a quarterback. So, if you're comfortable with that, then that's fine. I mean, that's your call on that one. I'm not comfortable with that. Plus, if you look around the NFL, and I'm not saying that the only spot for is Minnesota, but there's a lot of potential teams that are going to be desperate for quarterback this offseason. And they're going to pay him maybe a lot more than Minnesota will. And, maybe you want to stay in Minnesota because of the team you have. Maybe Minnesota says, well, we'll give you $30 million for a year or two just to bridge McCarthy. But if this front office liked McCarthy that much to draft him where they did, they just got to see him play. So I do not believe you pay Sam Darnold. You let him walk. You get the comp pick for it, which will be, you get a third pick or whatever, third round pick, and you roll with McCarthy next year.
Man, I did not see that coming. We are speaking with Jeff Schwartz right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Let's shift over to the AFC, Jeff. And when you look at the Chiefs, 13-1, won 4 straight. Obviously, 9 before that. They were 9-0 before they lost to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills had an amazing game against the Rams, a week ago. Lost that shootout. Then they come out and they beat the Lions pretty decisively. You have the Steelers, who dropped a game, obviously, to Philly and didn't look great while doing it. You got the Texans below there. The Ravens had a blowout, which was pretty predictable against the Giants. But when it comes to the Chiefs and the Bills, do you think this is finally the year where the Chiefs get knocked off and that three-peat that they're attempting to get gets kind of thwarted?
Good question. I know everyone, I think is hoping the Chiefs lose, and it's certainly possible. But I'll just tell you this. I mean, would you back a team that on defense in 2 straight weeks allowed 44 points and 38 points?
Yeah.
Now, I understand the Lions were scrambling at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's obviously not in the game flow. And so, the Bills defense played much better in sort of the regular game flow. But that's my problem. I mean, Buffalo's defense is atrocious right now. You can argue it's the same thing the Lions have with just injuries, right? And they are getting guys back, so you feel more comfortable possibly of that improving. But their defense is horrendous. If I told you that a team that you thought was in the Super Bowl allowed 90 points over 2 weeks, you'd be like, yeah, hard pass on that. And I get it. Josh Allen's been great, and he deserves all the credit in the world for how he's playing. But I would tread lightly on that. The Chiefs get the 1 seed, which they need to win 2 of the last 3 games. Then you beat one team, and Buffalo comes to Kansas City. And I'm not saying Buffalo can't do it, but it certainly would feel much tougher to do it in Kansas City than Buffalo.
Yeah, point differential, the Bills are plus 135, the Chiefs only plus 70, and then the team that's leading the NFL in point differential is the Lions. Part of that was running it up on the Cowboys, but they're at plus 177, but so many injuries for the Lions. Unfortunately, I think what could have been a magical year will probably be not. Let's shift over to college football, Jeff, and one of the things that kind of popped out to me when the college playoff bracket got announced, one of them was the fact that Alabama did not get in. I thought that they were going to just do it because Alabama's Alabama. But it was also that, this is the first year where playoff games will be played in the home stadium of the higher seeds, and all of them are favored, I believe, by a touchdown or more. Are there any games that we can kind of tie this in, just general college football talk, but also maybe some gambling tips here, Jeff? As, OC, James told me, OC calls you a degenerate. Is there any of those games where you see the underdog getting more points than they should?
It's a degenerate only if you lose. If you win,
true.
If you win, you're
100% true.
Yeah. Well, let me think here. So Friday night's game, I just think that over 60 minutes, Notre Dame's talent wins out, right? So when you look at it's just like Indiana, incredible season, but they're just not as talented. They're just not. They're not. And I think it's really going to hurt them in a game like this when both teams have a lot of time to prepare. I think Notre Dame will find a way to eventually wear them down. I think Notre Dame cover that spread. James Franklin gets this sort of moniker of not being like a big game coach, but they often win and cover games when he has a 7 or 7 up to 24 point favorite a lot. Like they win these games and cover them a lot. I think that you have a warm weather team going to college to Happy Valley, and I just think Penn State's the way they play in the trenches, their offensive creativity. I think it's too much over, again, 60 minutes. I actually think that Penn State covers this game. I think that's the one. It's a favorite I feel most comfortable with covering a game. The pressure is on Texas to get it done at home. I think they're better than Clemson, but Clemson's been here before. That they're not going to shy away from this moment. Does Quinn Ewers play well? That could be a big part of this game. If he doesn't, you're looking at a much closer game than I think probably should be. And then the Ohio State one is so interesting because to me it's just about psyche, right? Like if Ohio State is ready to play and play to their ability, this is probably a runaway win for them. But I don't know where they are mentally. We have not seen this before, where a team lost the rival game the way Ohio State did and made the playoffs. Normally, if you lose, you're out. Or you lose by 3 points. And I think they 1 year. I don't know if it's actually the BCS era when when Ohio State and Michigan played that like 42-39 game and you lose by a point, and you still make the playoffs. But that's not that. They were 19, 20-point favorites in this game and lost. So mentally, where are they at? If they're engaged and they use this 3 weeks to sort of prepare and use the passing game more, I think that it's very clearly Penn State Ohio State, I should say, to win and cover this game. If not, it's a dogfight, man. If not, I don't think I can tell you they're going to win.
So it sounds like you're going to stay away from that game. And just to recap, you like Clemson as an underdog to cover, and you like Penn State.
No, I really like Notre Dame and Penn State.
Notre Dame and Penn State. Okay, but in terms of the dogs,
I like Riley Leonard over 52.5 rushing yards too.
Okay, all right, sounds good. And then anything on the NFL slate that popped out to you after the games concluded last night on Monday, and the lines are out now for Sunday or Thursday and Sunday and Monday?
I already took Chiefs +3. I think that's ridiculous. Mahomes is going to play. Like that number will be -3 when they announce he's going to play. That feels a little bit ludicrous to me. Also, I get Pittsburgh has not been great recently. Eagles game basically, but the fact that they're 6-point dogs in Baltimore when all Tomlin does in this series. I mean, in kind of he covers as a road underdog. It's really he covers in general against division opponents as an underdog. Like, this is a classic Steelers spot, right? Like, oh, things are terrible. We're not playing well. Oh, wow. And then they beat the Ravens, you know? So, like, those stand out to me as two numbers that again, like, it's still early in the week. It's Tuesday. So, you know, I don't have much else for NFL as far as numbers so far. I mean, obviously there's no props yet or anything like that. So, hard to judge some of those numbers.
Talk to me a little bit about Utah football as we are in the land of Ute Nation and a major upheaval, makeover, whatever you want to call it, on the offensive side of the ball for the Utes. What do you make of them bringing in a new offensive coordinator in Jason Beck, a new quarterback in terms of Dampier, and just the fact that Utah football is going to look a lot different than it has over the past couple of decades? I feel like it's something that the Utes should be excited about because, again, the defense has not been the problem. The offense has, and kudos to Coach Witt for being willing to change and adjust and pivot. So what do you make of the new hires and the new guys coming in?
So I think when I look at these hires is other offensively, and I've not followed this, so you can please give me an update. Like, are they going to run? Is the new guy they hired like he's a spread offense guy? I would imagine, sort of up tempo. Like,
yep, it's going to be spread. It's going to be RPO. It's going to be totally different than the pro style offense that they usually run.
So this is the only thing that I'll say about when it comes to this. I like that Kyle Whittingham went outside the box for this hire for himself, right, for the program. But is he going to let him run his offense? There's a lot of times these coaches say like, "Oh yeah, like we're going to switch it up," and then you get in the middle of the season, it's like you're struggling, and he goes back to, "All right, let's get under center and run the football," you know. And so that's my concern. I love that he has decided that I need to do something different, which they certainly have to do different, and so I love the idea. Again, the question is like, is he going to follow through on what he essentially what he hired, right? And that's one question I have. If he follows through on it, I love it, and it's going to be different for Utah fans to see that stuff. Oh, you can have a shotgun team who's physical. Look at Oregon. Like, you can't have that. You don't have to be under center to be physical. And I'm sure Kyle Whittingham, and I agree with him, will continue to try to be a physical team. But again, you don't have to do that from under center. And when you do have some of the RPO things, I'm not the biggest fan all the time of the RPO, but there are benefits to having it when you play a good football team, when you just want to give defenses different looks. So I'm a fan of the general idea of it. I think teams get too dependent on it, and defenses can really dictate what you do on offense, which I don't like because of basically the RPO. But I like that he has gone outside his comfort zone to do something different because the program needs that right now.
Finally, Jeff, as you've cheated me out of another half hour, Jeff, I'm starting to get offended here. I'm just kidding. But finally, I want to pick your brain on Bill Belichick to North Carolina. I've done some reading and some research, and it's less surprising to me now as he spent a lot of time with his son up in Washington, and he, wrote a 400 or 500-page manifesto or whatever you want to call it in terms of how he's going to attack coaching. And I think college has become a lot more like the NFL. So it's a lot less surprising than you would see kind of on the surface when you hear Belichick not getting an NFL job, being considered one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time in terms of the NFL. But what did you make when you heard the news? Are you a little less surprised when you heard more details about it? Also, his dad coached at North Carolina, so it started to make more and more sense to me once I realized more of the details. But what did you make of that move, and how do you think he's going to do?
Well, I'm glad you said you read, because I didn't think reading was allowed in this program. So I'm glad. I'll have to check in with OC and see if he reads it all.
OC's an author. He reads.
I mean, I'm an author too. It doesn't mean I read. To be fair,
You didn't read. You didn't read your own book.
I probably had to. I don't remember. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's like seven potties, and you read my whole book.
I got you.
It's not very long.
Yeah.
It's not very long. Look, I caution the people that think college football is the NFL. It's not. I get that it resembles it with the payments that are now being made, but in the NFL, you choose the players, and then they're under contract, and you decide when they leave. In this sport, the players choose you, and they decide when they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I just caution people that think it's going to be just, Belichick, and so far the hires, no college guys yet. Again, this is a different thing than he's used to. It's not the NFL. And do I think he can still coach? Yes. I said that actually when he was in New England. I thought he could absolutely still coach. But the question becomes player retention, right? Player acquisition, relationships with players. And I just don't have a great answer for that. I don't know. I don't really know if he is up for this type of job. I know he's been around his son. I get all those things. I don't disagree with he knows the college game, but does he know how to recruit these players? Does he know how I've been on this for a long time, and I think it's certainly true, and there's many examples of it. If you're a 5-star kid, maybe you go somewhere because of the money. Like absolutely, totally fair if that is what you do. But the rest of the team, I don't think does. There's money available, but a 4-star kid is probably getting the same amount of money from most schools. So now it becomes like it's not just paying the players to show up in North Carolina; it's relationships, it's coaching, it's what can you do for them post-career. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as they think acquiring players. I think Belichick can still coach. I'm not actually concerned about X's and O's and how he'll fit in the game. It's just a matter of those things. Like talent acquisition to me is the hardest part about this job for him.
Quickly here, over under 6.5 wins. I like the over, but it sounds like maybe you like the under?
I think it's too early because we don't know what his roster is yet to make any of those wagers.
Fair enough. Jeff Schwartz.
I don't know what his quarterback is.
Yeah, true. Fair enough. Jeff Schwartz, always fantastic on the NFL, college football, little gambling advice as well. Jeff, we always appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, sir.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
There you go, Jeff Schwartz. Good stuff there. He didn't sound too optimistic about it. I've seen a lot of people saying, Bill Belichick is going to run circles coaching-wise in the college ranks. And I feel like he's gonna be relevant in the ACC. And I like the over on the 6.5 wins. I don't know if it's gotten bet up. I bet it has. No pun intended. I bet that it has been betted up. Betted up? Bet up? It's been bet up? Whatever it is. Anyways, I'm going to take a little flyer on that if it's still at 6.5. All right, coming up next, bottom of the hour, the NBA constantly making changes. This time, I don't know if you saw, the commissioner, Adam Silver, was absolutely disgusted last year in the effort from the players, thought it was kind of a joke. He tried to, incentivize the players to make it more competitive and a better viewing product. A lot of people tune out on the NBA All-Star Game, so they have made a dramatic change to the format. I'll give you the details on that and much, much more. All coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Like this song. Brings me back to what, 1993 probably? A little Nirvana for you, I believe. On the Sean O'Connell Show, Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700 coming up at 1:45. A whole bunch of stuff. Topical trivia, giving away stuff, and then hopefully some crosstalk with Spence Checketts. I saw him. We had a Christmas party. Of course they have the Christmas party from 11:30 to 1:30. This program, and it sounds like they're still out there, this program is from 11 to 2. So is that like a big middle finger to me and James, who have to work on this show while they're doing the elephant?
After all we've done for Broadway media.
Exactly. I came all the way from the
ESPN
Bay Area.
700. Come
and
on
we're
now.
out here giving you, delivering entertainment for you, and this is how they reward us, James.
Hey,
they clearly didn't want us there.
At least there was some food left.
Yes.
We could go out during some commercial breaks.
100%.
Get some grub.
I got some grub.
You got a blanket, right?
Yes.
In the secret or white elephant.
I did. So there was 7 presents left. I was number 27 out of 32. So it was late in the game. I didn't know what I could steal. I didn't really want to make a big fuss. And I didn't trust the ones that were wrapped. And the blanket was not. And you know what? You can never have enough fluffy, cozy blankets.
I'm a blanket guy.
Yeah.
I like blankets.
So when
I'm
fly
sitting on
home,
the couch,
I'll be using
on the couch, especially downstairs, where it's
100%.
always a little cooler in the basement. It's
Cover
nice
the
having
footsies.
a blanket. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that looks
I
like
went
a
blanket.
nice looking. Is that a minky blanket?
I have no idea.
Anyway,
what it is.
it's a nice looking blanket.
It's
there.
a Cuddy Duds.
Okay.
Lay in layers, cozy, soft throw.
Okay.
So I went blanket. Here, I'll show it to the people watching on
Very good. A
YouTube
nice
Live
white
and Instagram
blanket.
Live. Yep, that's what I got. So anyways,
Did
sounds
you
like
guess,
they're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're playing games out there without us. We'll
Yeah.
try not to take it personally.
And
We
I'm-
already have.
I'm guessing right when we end the program at 2:00, everybody's going to go back to their desk.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I actually have work to do. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, we're ready to play games.
What are you going to do?
Did you guess? They also had guess how many pens are in the big container there. Did you make
Oh
your
man,
guess?
I saw the guy loading those up, and I'm like, what are you doing? I would have guessed 1,000.
Yeah,
It was a lot.
I did the Price is Right thing.
Uh-huh.
I thought I'm gonna
Didn't
guess
wanna
12.
go over?
I'm gonna guess 1,200, and then I went. No, I'm gonna guess 1,201 in case someone else guessed 1,200.
Yeah.
Then I'm closer.
It was
right?
a lot.
if it's over 1,200.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It was a lot for sure.
It was a lot. Anyway,
Yeah.
pen talk on the Sean O'Connell Show.
Well, it's all within context. I do want to remind the people out there to come join me. Tomorrow I will be live from the Beer Bar in Salt Lake City, located in the heart of downtown at 161 East and 200 South. Over 100 beers on tap, offering amazing burgers and brats, side of fries, amazing salads, soups, homemade sourdough bread. Again, come see me. I will be live 11 to 2 at the Beer Bar.
Will this be your first time at Beer Bar?
It will.
It's a good spot. I think you'll like it.
Is it a sports bar?
It's a sports bar.
Okay.
So one of the owners is Nick Raimondo, they call him the Wall of the Wasatch, a Real Salt Lake legend. So they're a big soccer bar.
Okay.
They make sure to have all the soccer games on, especially all the Real Salt Lake games on.
Nice.
So they'll probably be. I'm not a soccer guy myself. I'm sure there's some soccer tournament somewhere.
Yeah.
That they'll have on the
soccer,
TV
there's
in
like
there.
9,000 leagues
it's
with
a year-round
soccer.
thing.
I cannot keep up.
Yeah,
there's
whether
the MLS, there's the Premier League, there's the Italia League, there's the the Spanish League, there's the French League, there's the English League. It's like I don't know how you can keep up if you're a soccer fan.
Then all the tournaments, all the cups, like the NBA's trying to borrow from that format with NBA Cup that's ending tonight.
Yeah.
You have all the different cups that are, some of them are your national teams competing, some of them are club teams competing. So yeah, there's always something
crazy.
going on. So I'm sure there'll be some soccer games on there tomorrow while you're there.
Sounds good.
It's a good spot. I think you'll like it. And you could walk from here to it too.
Oh, okay.
It's just a couple
so I
blocks
can
away.
park in OC's
So,
normal spot. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Come by and see me. We'll be giving out tickets to see the Running Utes. Speaking of which, your chance to see the Running Utes versus Florida A&M tomorrow.
Well, tonight, actually. Sorry, we needed to update
tonight.
that on the copy. It is tonight's game.
Running Utes versus Florida A&M tonight at the Huntsman Center. All you got to do is text Utes to 33999. 33986. If you want to go see the Runnin' Utes versus Florida A&M tonight, text Utes to 33986. And ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. Yes, please do that. And I'll be doing remotes on Thursday and Friday. I don't know, James, if the company is trying to send me a message that they don't want me in the building, but I will be on remote Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Again, tomorrow at the beer bar. All right. This got me excited. This is a selfish part of the program. Sometimes I like to talk about what I want to talk about, and I don't really care what anybody says. Unless you tell me because you're the program director not to do it again, then I probably won't. But
all right, we'll see. I'm going to wait till you say it, and I'll tell you. Just kidding.
I'm a Suns fan. I saw James at the
stop talking.
At the Suns Jazz game on Friday. I had my jersey underneath my button down. So
forgive me, what jersey were you? Was it the Barkley jersey? What jersey
Sean Marion.
were you wearing? Marion jersey.
Sean Marion.
Great choice by you.
He was my favorite. The
31.
Matrix. You know, everybody loved Nash. A lot of people loved Amari Stoudemire, but the Matrix was my guy.
He
had
was
that
my
funky
favorite
jump
from
shot.
that era too.
But he rebounded. He defended. He was my guy. I love the Matrix.
Isn't it crazy? Sorry, going off a little tangent.
It's all right.
Isn't it crazy that he was never all NBA defense?
That is crazy. I didn't know that.
He should have been, in my opinion.
He got second team?
He never made first or second team.
Or third?
No. He was always considered one of the best defenders in the league.
He guarded the best player.
Against perimeter players and against he was one of the best against Duncan at that time. And he gave up like 7 inches to Duncan, 7 inches to Duncan. But anyway, it's crazy to me that he wasn't an all-league defender, but he was always a respected defender for sure.
Yeah. And then quick story, nobody cares, but it is a cool story in my opinion, so I think you'll find it entertaining. I went to a Suns-Warriors game, and one of my friends back home, Smitty, is an excellent artist and drew a picture of Marion dunking on, I believe, Jermaine O'Neal. Anyways, it's an incredible picture with like charcoal sort of deal. Anyways, I brought it to the game, and I tried to get him to sign it and couldn't. So me and my brother went and snuck down to their bus, and all the players were on the bus, and they had the security guys. Obviously, they wouldn't let me on the bus, but I said, listen, man, I'm a diehard Marion fan. My friend drew this picture. Can you just give it to him and see if he'll sign it? And sure enough, he went on the bus, showed it to Marion. Marion loved it, signed it, and I got it back. So I still need to frame that thing, but that was incredible. Anyways, I bring up all this Suns talk because there are big talks right now about the Suns acquiring Jimmy Butler for Bradley Beal, some picks, and some pieces. And I cannot tell you enough, as a Suns fan, how much I loathe Bradley Beal. I probably shouldn't say that. I loathe him in terms of having him on the team. He's always hurt. He's soft. And Jimmy Butler is the opposite. He's a guy that plays through injuries. He's a guy that, when he was with Minnesota, didn't like the attitude of the starters, including Karl Anthony Towns, I believe at that time, Andrew Wiggins, some other star. So he played with the backups, didn't even shoot a shot, and I believe won like 12-1. That's the kind of grit and attitude the Suns need. And right now, Shams, I don't even know how to say his last name.
Charania.
Shams Charania is saying that is picking up steam. So I would love to see that. But let me pay off the tease, James. The new format for the 2025 NBA All-Star Game, which everybody agrees needs to be fixed, but I don't know how, and I don't know if this will work. But here we go. 24 NBA All-Star selections divided evenly into 3 8-player teams. The fourth team is the Castrol Rising Star. I'm guessing that's an advertisement in there. Is that like oil or something?
Castrol Oil, yeah.
Okay. The fourth team is the Castrol Rising Stars champion. Honorary team general managers, TNT analyst Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, and Candace Parker will be the GMs. Barkley, O'Neal, and Smith draft their team rosters from pool of 24 NBA All-Star selections. Parker is the GM of the Castrol Rising Stars champion. 2 teams meet in one semifinal, that's game 1, and the remaining 2 teams meet in other semifinal, game 2. Winning teams from game 1 and game 2 advance to face each other in championship game 3. Winner of each game is first team to reach or surpass 40 points. Your initial thoughts on that, James? I know you were saying something in the commercial break that it reminds you of the Rising Stars.
Yeah, so I don't know how many years ago they changed the Rising Stars format from basically being the All-Star game but with first and second year players. 48-minute game that people never really watched that game. It was never near as fun as the All-Star game when the All-Star game was fun. So they decided to experiment with it. They went to this mini tournament format, and one of the three teams were G League All-Stars basically, and the other three were first and second year NBA players. And it was basically this same format. So it looks like the NBA has deemed that as a success, and they're like, because no one is interested in the traditional 48-minute format of the All-Star game, let's try what we've been doing with the Rising Stars and make it a 4-team mini tournament. I don't hate it. I'm a bit of a basketball purist, just like you are, Zakariah. I wish we could just always be the way that it was and guys actually bought in and played a tough 48-minute game, a competitive 48-minute game, because that's the best format if the players are bought in. But given that apparently can't be the case, this mini tournament I think should be a good time, and it'll be like short pickup games, right? Longer versions of pickup games, playing to 40 points. Going by 2s and 3s, whoever's up after, but first team to reach 40 wins the game. I could see that being in short bursts, kind of a short burst, competitive pickup type games in the All-Star game. That being said, I'll believe these guys are just like what we were saying about the Cavs. We'll believe that they're championship contenders when we see it. I'll believe that the All-Stars are going to buy in and actually play hard when I see it.
Yeah, and you said you don't hate it. I'll tell you who does hate it. Kevin Durant, quote, I hate it, absolutely hate it.
Quote, I hate it.
Yeah, absolutely hate it. He followed it up with absolutely hate it. Terrible. We should just go back to East-West. I'll say this, and I would like to, it'll be interesting to see what the ratings are for the in-season tournament cup thing, whatever the heck it is, from last year to this year. Now, last year had the Lakers, so that's probably going to be unfair as you have two small market teams with the Bucks and the Thunder this year. But I think that anytime it's the first time, I think it'll get eyeballs. Like, I will watch it just to see whether or not I love it or hate it or just like it. So I'll definitely watch. The question is whether or not it's going to be sustainable. I've seen a lot of people commenting saying they still won't try, and then the NBA will try something new. But anytime I think it's new, especially, I think it'll be fun to watch Kenny and Chuck and Shaq pick the teams, and Candace. I think that part will be fun. The format seems a little bit odd, but I'm certainly going to watch it just to see how I think about it. It's hard for me to just read it and try to picture it. It'll be a lot easier when I can actually watch it, and certainly at least for the first time, I'm going to watch it. Yeah. So just in terms of that, I think that there'll be eyeballs on it just to see how it goes.
I'm with you, and I think in theory, since these are just games to 40 points, because they're shorter bursts, in theory, you'd think that they'll be more competitive. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But we'll see. Like, they've tried so many things to incentivize these players to play competitively and actually play like they want to play basketball in these games, and the players have said, "Oh yeah, we're all in on it," and then they give up 200 points in Indiana. Like,
it was a joke. I know.
So we'll see. Yeah. I'm with Kevin Durant in that it feels too gimmicky for me, but as I said, I'm a basketball purist. So anytime you change something, it's gonna feel gimmicky to me, and I'm gonna be like, but we gotta be realistic here. Something needed to change. They had to think outside of the box to get these players to buy in, and we'll see if they do.
And look, with baseball, some of the changes they made I like a lot. Some of them I don't. And so, look, if you're trying to fix something that is clearly broken, like the results that you saw from the All-Star game last year when Adam Silver was just devastated, you got to try something, and we'll see how it goes. Again, it's a lot easier for me to actually watch it and see how it plays out. I think it'll be entertaining to see Chuck and Shaq and Kenny and Candace pick the teams, and then we'll see how the actual format goes, and then I'll form my own opinion after I watch it. So that is that. All right, coming up next, hopefully some crosstalk with Spence. I saw him in the building for the Christmas party that we had here at Broadway Media. So we will see what's coming up on the drive. And then also we will do topical trivia. I don't know what our question is. I don't see it up there, and I don't know what we're giving away. But I know it's going to be.
We'll come up with a question in the break.
Okay.
Are we
giving away Lemon Shark Poke gift cards and 2 tickets to see Toto?
We got Toto. That Toto show, by the way.
Yeah.
Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work, all in the same concert.
All in the same concert.
Should be a good one.
So we're giving away tickets to see some music and tickets to get some food. All you got to do is answer a trivia question about the show. So that means in the future, if you want to win, you got to stay locked in for all 3 hours. That's our preference for the ratings and just for our own personal ego. So we're going to ask a question about something that happened in the show from 11 to 2. And if you know it and you text it in first, you will get Lemon Shark Poke gift cards and 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. All of that next, and hopefully some crosstalk with Spence Checketts. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Yes, sir. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down. ESPN 700 coming up top of the hour. You know what it is. When it's 2 o'clock, it's time for the drive, and that would be with Spence Checketts. We'll check in with him in just a second. A reminder, shamelessly, follow me on Twitter at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports, and also I will be live at the Beer Bar tomorrow from 11 to 2. Come on by, say hello, take a picture, shake some hands, maybe a bro hug, who knows? But I'm looking forward to it. I'll also be on remote Thursday and Friday, which means today is the last day in the studio. Right now, we have to get to topical trivia because we like to give away stuff. We're like Oprah. You get some tickets. You get some tickets. So we have a question. You have to listen to the show if you want to get this right. Topical trivia to win Lemon Shark Poke gift cards and 2 tickets to see Toto, Christopher Cross, and Men at Work. They're coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on August 27th of next year. The question is, get your phones out, put it in, I'll give you a second, 877-353-0700. Again, 877-353-0700. Maurice Jones-Drew was on with Dan Patrick earlier, right here on ESPN 700. What did he say about Santa Claus? What did Maurice Jones-Drew say about Santa Claus? Text in the answer, 877-353-0700, and you will win the prizes I just mentioned. Spence Checketts, everybody's having fun. Of course, they have the party right smack dab. You know, I got the email, and how am I supposed to say yes, no, or decline or whatever? The party's from 11:30 to 1:30, and the show is from 11 to 2, Spence. What am I supposed to do with that?
You know, it's just part of the deal. The worst thing that they do is every year there's open enrollment for insurance. And they're like, hey, you can come in between 2 and 4 to see if you can still be insured. And I'm like, well, what do I do if I literally cannot do that? Yeah. So typically we're left out of these things.
And that's a little more important than a Christmas party.
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Smidge.
Yes,
yeah.
But typically we're left out of these things. But you got yourself a nice blanket.
I did.
I went with the
elephant.
The elephant gift
white
exchange.
Elephant gift exchange. Yep.
I got me a mug and a Starbucks gift card.
Nice.
James, what did you walk away with for the gift exchange?
I politely declined to participate in the gift exchange
because
I knew I'd be in here. So I decided no.
Scrooge McDuck over there. Wow. Anti-Christmas?
Scrooge McDuck over there.
We're in this studio, Spence, and you've been here for years. It's supposed to be soundproof, but I could hear through this soundproof studio hooting and hollering, music, screaming, sounded like people dancing. What did I miss out there?
This is sober fun, too. I mean, these folk are doing this without any, imbibing.
Liquid courage.
Yeah. So I'm not sure because after the gift exchange, I had to run home, let the dog out, grab my stuff, grab my notes, and run down and all that. So there are 3 tables set together.
Okay.
And it looks like it's a drinking game with no booze.
Okay.
They're having a good time, throwing things up and down, and then somebody's drinking something, but there's no alcohol involved. So I did not catch the end of the Christmas party. Had to run home to get ready to do the show.
Okay, I could ask you about a number of sports-related topics. We had 2 Monday Night Football games. The NBA has announced a new format to the NBA All-Star game. I don't even know what you call it now, a pickup scrimmage. But what I want to, and also Mike Vick maybe going to Norfolk State or Sacramento State, which is in Northern California. Shout out. I can ask you about a bunch of stuff. But what I want to ask you about is Adam Schefter, Doug Gottlieb beef, Twitter beef, tweef, if you will. Schefter seems like this nice, innocent guy that would not get into the muck, but he went back at him and called out his coaching record and his 7-game losing streak and then screenshotted the standings. What do you make of that beef between Gottlieb and Schefter?
It's the old saying, right? If you come at the king, you best not miss. And, it's interesting. I am a Twitter addict in recovery.
Okay.
So I'm not on it as much anymore.
Yep.
So I caught it based off of one of those, like awful announcing type throw off websites, like Gottlieb and Schefter going back and forth. But no, I was surprised that because from what I saw, there were several people on social media actually getting Doug's back to say they don't have that type of cash.
Yeah.
But the thing is, guys like Schefter and Woj before him and now Shams, they're all working with agents.
Yeah.
And that's why I take all of their news with a grain of salt. Yes, they get everything, but, when Woj started tweeting out, according to Mark Bartelstein of Bartelstein Sports, Gordon Hayward is worth, I'm like, all right, dude, don't make it so obvious that you're in bed with these agents. So, I mean, look, Twitter beef, I've been involved with plenty of them. I've tried to be canceled by every fan base in this market at one point.
On purpose?
Only one on purpose.
Okay.
The only fan base that I used to intentionally poke was BYU fans because they're so fun.
I know.
They're truly so fun.
So sensitive.
Because it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. In fact, the first year I got back on air, I was watching BYU Utah football with a couple of buddies.
Yeah.
And it was a close game. And near the end of the game, I said to him, you want me to make BYU fans dance right now? I'm like, watch this. I sent out a tweet like, hey, I've been off air for a couple of years, but back for this Utah-BYU game. Gentle reminder that should BYU win this game, should Utah win this game, remember the BYU playbook. They never lose. It's the ref's fault. You know, something, that was clearly poking the bear. I put my phone down. Within 2 hours, I was trending in Salt Lake and in Provo.
Come on.
Yes. My name was trending in Salt Lake and Provo because so many BYU fans quote tweeted it and, of course, sending me pictures of
that quick
low days in my life, doing Google searches and saying, remember who this guy is. For a fan base that claims to be Christian and kind, they are the most judgmental, brutal people, hypocrites, man. The lot of them.
Yeah.
So the only fan base I do intentionally poke from time to time are Y fans because I like seeing them dance. But
of course.
I've been sideways with Ute fans, Jazz fans, not as much. Jazz fans are a kind bunch for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
The soccer fans, the gatekeepers in the soccer world, which is wild because I'm the only one that will truly talk soccer on a sports talk radio station where folks that tune in typically want to hear football, basketball, maybe a little playoff baseball, now hockey. But the majority of your meat and potato sport fan listeners don't want to talk soccer. But I tried to because my friends over at RSL I care about. And that's not enough for them because I don't know enough about soccer to be talking about their sport. They're exhausting.
One time when I was on air in the Bay Area, I said the Stanley Cup Finals, and I swear to God, close to 100 text messages within minutes. Just when I wouldn't call it a niche sport. Hockey and soccer are not niche sports, but they feel a little bit like the little brother. So anytime you mess up anything, something simple like that, and I'll be honest, in terms of soccer, it's normally just interviews for me.
Sure.
And so I applaud you for talking about it more. But, they take it very seriously, and they get very angry if you make any one little slip up. I could mess up an NFL name. Football fans are not going to care. But you mess up something with soccer and or hockey, and they'll come after you.
Well, and it's the weirdest thing because all they do is bitch and moan that nobody talks soccer.
And then when you do.
And then you talk soccer, you don't know enough to be talking soccer. So it's just funny following all the dynamics, but I don't take very much of it seriously. I don't take any of it personally.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
But they try to take personal shots, and you just, if you've been a public personality for a while, you have to develop leather skin.
What I do is, and I advise this to anybody else that is, a public figure, as you said, I love, it's kind of like golf. I appreciate a good shot. I appreciate the compliments, and then I just, I have fun with the insults. All right. I want to know what's coming up on the drive, and then also your thoughts on Isaac. I was shocked by this, Spence. I did not think, based on the whole revamping of the offense, that you would see Isaac Wilson come back. But this came after a meeting with Jason Beck, and I want to know your thoughts on him coming back and then also what's coming up on the drive.
Well, first of all, I mean, this type of stuff these days is complicated because if you remove all of the ancillary things, namely – what did Utah pay him to come back? Mm-hmm. Namely, what was BYU unwilling to pay him or whatever the others, the rumor was he was going to try to go down to the Y and follow in his brother's footsteps. I can't corroborate it, but if you remove all of that from the equation and simply focus on the competitive element of it, you got to love the kid's cojones. Because Devin Dampier is coming here to play for his OC.
And fall, exactly.
Right? And so I kind of like that Isaac said, all right.
Okay.
Because honestly, I'm not going to tell you that I was grinding on New Mexico football last year.
Yeah.
But after Devin signed, I went back and watched a bunch. And he's an impressive kid, but Isaac's a better thrower than he is.
True.
Isaac has a better arm than he does.
True.
Isaac doesn't run the way Devin does, and Isaac doesn't know Jason's system the way Devin does. So Devin's going to have an innate advantage. But simply from a competitive standpoint, I'm going to show up and try to win the job. I like it. And
I agree with you.
And, bro, you know this now. You've been doing the show in the market for long enough. It's 2 straight years where it hasn't been 1 or 2 quarterbacks. It's been 4 and 5 quarterbacks under center.
Yep.
That room has to be crowded. It has to be crowded with guys you feel comfortable with.
Yep.
it's like the Georgia thing. The Gunnar Stockton kid steps in after Carson Beck goes down, and they win, and they're playing for potentially a national championship.
Yeah.
They were prepared. Utah for 2 straight years hasn't been prepared. So this is only good news. And I kind of like it from the Isaac standpoint. Like, no, I'm going to show up and compete and try and win this job.
Totally agree. It's kind of like Dwight in The Office, Spence. Challenge accepted.
The Andy Bernard duel?
No, Dwight, the guy that Jim's always messing with.
Yeah.
The guy with the glasses. He always says challenge accepted.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of what Isaac Wilson is saying.
Yeah,
challenge accepted.
See, I'm an Office geek, so I'm thinking of like the Andy Dwight duel when Andy runs over him with
in
his
the car.
and
it's going because you can't hear the engine.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's under 5 miles per hour.
Or is it the snowballs where Dwight essentially ruins Jim's Christmas with the snowballs?
I just remember Dwight all the time saying challenge accepted. So that's kind of how I feel like Isaac Wilson. So what's coming up, Spence?
A lot of that. We're going to lead the show with Isaac. We're going to lead the show with Utah football. We've got Omar Ruiz from the NFL Network. Excited to talk some pro football today.
Nice.
We have the NBA Cup final tonight. Did you even know that? So we do have Tim McMahon and Zach Harper on the show today.
Okay.
And I want to talk. There are all these this early in the season to have trade conversations about legitimate pieces that could change a team, I think is really interesting. Right now, Zach wrote today for The Athletic, John Collins, Jordan Clarkson. I don't know what they can get for Clarkson now. I think they overplayed their hand. He's a shell of who he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then Colin Sexton. I think all three of those players could be on the move. Dave Fox, KUTV, will stop by. I'll be on TV with Dave tonight at 6:35 on KMYU, talking a little Jazz. So a lot of college football, a lot of pro football, and then some Jazz hoops as well.
Sounds good. Sounds like a fantastic program as per usual for Spence on the drive, 2 to 6. Keep it locked. Don't forget, come visit me. Come on down. Take your lunch break at the beer bar. I will be there from 11 to 2, and I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Same great time, same great station. Appreciate you listening. Thanks to James behind the glass, working the 1s and 2s, making me sound good, playing audio, all that good stuff. We try to entertain you. We try to do the best job possible. All right, keep it locked for Spence Checketts coming up next. You've been listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah has been holding it down right here, ESPN 700.